like to be smart. I like learning facts. I want the straight dope, not a bunch of bull crap. I want to know things that can help us all, not conspiracy crap that drives me up the wall. Up the wall.
We didn't think that if we slowed down the theme song, it would cut right into the live broadcast here. We ran out of picture. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Doug.
Hello.
And good evening, Vic and Matt.
Hey.
This is a nice change of pace. How does it feel? It feels like we're maybe have some jet lag or something.
I don't like it.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here on this emergency broadcast. You know, where do we begin? This is going to be a bit of a different show. Saturday night, things exploded on Twitter. And as much as you can laugh at that and say that is completely
fucking
meaningless, it riled me up beyond belief. It got me thinking. It got me to a place where I wanted to resolve it some way, somehow. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I have a show. We do it generally Thursday mornings, but maybe I could go live. I was thinking about doing like a Periscope. We could talk about it. But I talked to the guys. I said, what if we just come in Monday night and we do a show and we talk about it? And I asked...
say no.
What's this?
Hi.
Hi, Vic. Get them all out. Get them out.
Guys can't
I said,
deny
guys,
only
this is not going to be a sort of a drop-heavy show.
Q is a consonant, a letter in the alphabet. Q is a consonant, a letter in the alphabet. Q is a
So get them out. Okay. By the way, it's 1,000 degrees in here right now.
It really is hot.
It's so hot because I have an air conditioner that I forgot to turn on. I just turned it on about a half hour ago. So we're going to look like Trump talking to Chris Wallace. We're going to be flop sweating like pigs. And people are going to say, oh, so you came on your show to defend yourself and your Hollywood friends. But look at how sweaty and red. Your shirt's sopping wet.
We keep it in tip-top shape. We call it sometimes tippy-top shape.
Tippy-top shape. What are you doing? Oh, you weren't recording, you scumbag.
Oh, boy,
See,
we lost. Oh,
the
man.
one thing you're supposed to do,
Start it over.
ladies and
Do you
gentlemen,
like hot
we're
fudge
now...
sundaes?
So I've
Is
asked...
it still hot out there?
Thank you. Thank you for the wet... Just... these guys were so...
I'm hopped up.
They were
there. I'm
so
ready.
obliging to me. Said, no, we understand it's an important subject. We're going to take it seriously.
Important
And here they are. They're just flying through their...
I have sinned against you.
No, here's what I want. And Vic, please.
Okay.
I know it's you now. I know who it
That's
is.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah.
You recognize that scream?
I kind of want this video to be something that maybe I could send to people when they come at me with these crazy accusations. I want to say, if you're interested, if you want to do research on me, which you can,
Which they won't.
hey, I'm trying to appeal to their better angels or the better angels or any kind of whatever is in them that makes them curious, that makes them interested in getting the whole picture and the whole story. I'm inviting them to this experience. I'm inviting them to this experience and saying, you guys are also really loud on the board. And I'm saying, come watch this show. I'm going to explain a little bit of what I'm about, how I understand the things you believe, and have a conversation. My guest is an expert on the subject, I believe, of Q. He's done a lot of research on it. All right, it's enough. It's who cares what that was? What was that?
We're not into the meat of the show yet. It was the church lady.
How convenient.
Let's welcome to our show Robbie Martin from Media Roots Radio. Robbie is a journalist and somebody that's put a lot of energy and time into studying the roots of the origins of QAnon. And I highly recommend his podcast.
Yeah, that's excellent.
That you can find
Media Roots Radio
on the Media Roots Radio. I was trying to focus, but I hear
I was applauding for
applause
for the guest.
Crowd's going
He
wild
deserves some
here.
applause.
Robbie, are you there?
Uh-oh.
Oh wait,
Is he coming in from space?
no, I have him up, Matt. Robbie, check 2. Well, he was just working a minute ago. Why does this shit never work?
Did we mute everything?
No.
It's on
That was
Matt.
me, sorry.
Okay, Robbie.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Tim.
Thank you.
Here. Thank you for inviting me on.
Yes, and I don't want to. I do want to acknowledge something that happened today. Before we get into the meat of the show, Vic.
Uh-oh.
What?
Made me shiver. I don't know.
No, I mean
I
there
did something wrong.
A
Pulling up
friend.
I was
Weeds
going
is
to do a
going
drop
through
it. They're
No,
muted,
I'm
so-
saying I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put you on the spot
It's
like
okay.
that. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm here.
Michael Brooks. I just wanted to say
yeah.
for a second, Michael Brooks from the
Majority
Majority Report. Sam Cedar suddenly passed away today. I wanted to acknowledge that and him, and know that you're a fan of his work, Robbie. And I feel terrible. I'm a fan of his work as well, and feel terrible that we're talking on this day. But
Yeah.
anyways,
He was a great guy. He will be very missed by a lot of people in this community.
yeah. So I asked you that, we don't want to sort of go through the entire backstory and history of Q, because my audience can, with a click, go to SoundCloud to the Media Roots Radio page, or type in the origins of QAnon, or search Robbie Martin, I guess. And it's just a tremendous, Doug turned me on to it, and it's a tremendous back history into the origins of this online movement.
It's fair and balanced.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll bring you guys back up but to a small
To a
degree.
degree.
Okay, you're out of timeout. But let me ask you, without going into the whole thing, Robbie, how did you become? Because you cover all kinds of things. How did this grab your attention? Why did it grab your attention to the degree that it did?
I think it goes back to like when I first started, getting really into like just the internet in general, when I was probably in my early 20s, my late teens. Conspiracy theories have always sort of been intertwined with deep diving on the internet. So it was always sort of just an interest of mine, a hobby of mine, looking at conspiracy theories. And when I actually seriously got into journalism and politics, I started to, see people like Alex Jones and later QAnon essentially weaponizing and turning the entire internet conspiracy movement into like a weapon for Trump, which was extremely remarkable to me, because all conspiracy theories, generally speaking, never include a president as like the hero of that narrative.
Right. He's like generally the top dog in the conspiracy, or in the the dark side of the conspiracy.
Yeah. So traditionally all conspiracies, any government conspiracy usually has no quarter, meaning that it doesn't have a partisan lens.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually just everybody in the government is probably corrupt. Whoever. So this is what's really different about this, is it's very partisan. It's basically acting as an arm of Trump's campaign, and it's completely different than the conspiracy theories that we've seen in the past. And it's also dangerously watering down like actual real things, like the Epstein scandal, this
Right.
Ghislaine Maxwell thing.
And you and I probably don't agree on everything under the sun. Who would agree with everybody under the sun? But I think we can all agree that there is like a global, power dynamic that exists, and there are like kind of problems in the world, and there's people that are making life hard for people. They're certainly, but it feels like they've just kind of missed it, right? They're just like going on this entirely different tangent. And it's a shame, because somebody said to me, I think Matt, you said, imagine if they spent this much time on real problems, right? But we started very negative. And my goal tonight is to at least, I'm not coming with an open mind about what Q thinks. I'll be honest with you there, but I don't want people to be ostracized by the way we're talking about it, that we're just discounting it and we don't hear you, or we don't have sympathy for the people out there that truly feel like they believe what they're hearing. Because I do believe there are good people out there, or who have good intentions, or who think that they are on the right side of history. And, you want me to share this with you, Vic? You got booted off the internet.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Like the guy that went into the Comet Pizza place, to him, he was going to rescue children that were trapped underneath the restaurant. So, as delusional as that feels to us, to him, there might have been a sense of like, I'm Superman. I'm a citizen hero. So I don't want to just like laugh at, we do laugh at a lot of this stuff, and we've made fun of this movement a lot on this show. We've had KW Williams, who I do think is, a joke. He's not my joke, but he is a real person. But he is not coming from, I don't believe he's coming from an authentic place of believing this stuff. But I do believe, from what I've seen, that there are people that buy into it, and I have sympathy for them to some degree.
No, I totally relate to that, because I used to be, I used to like seriously look into some of these conspiracy theories, 10 years ago. Some of them were very interesting to me.
Yeah.
There are actually a lot of credible people that were involved in, researching some of this stuff. Like I'll just throw out a name, like Paul Thompson. There's none of these people around anymore. And I think you really hit on something, that this really is preying on people who feel that something is very wrong with the world right now, who feel maybe really disempowered. There is a real sense that things are going very badly, that, there are bad actors in the world that want to harm people, that want to disenfranchise people. So I could totally understand why people are sort of drawn into this whole thing. It definitely, I think, preys on people who are already feeling that something is very wrong and are looking for some kind of answers or...
Yeah. So the situation with me, and I think to some degree Vic, and I know to some degree not Doug, I don't think so, but till tonight. But we've been dealing with it, now for over 4 years, maybe a little longer, 5 years. But it has been something. Whether it was Q right away, it probably wasn't, but it was certainly the online 4chan, Reddit / the Donald. Pepe alt-right attacks, mostly because we were fairly open, aggressively anti-Trump, and very outspoken, and in our own ways quite disrespectful and rude. So there was, I think, a fair amount of back and forth, name calling and abuse online that often would go too far. And I know, shortly after 2016, I was dealing with people threatening my life. I know, Vic, you had somebody show up in your front door.
Yeah, Proud Boy at my house. I had Weird Mike Cernovich, basically Pizzagating me.
So the pedophile, so the pedophile thing, I can actually think of where I first became aware of the pedophile thing, which was I got into it online with Mike Cernovich, who, and I don't know what the timeline is here. He might not have called you a pedophile yet. I don't know. But I was tweeting with him and I made a joke, and the joke was, and I'm surprised they didn't find this. Maybe it's got to be online somewhere. But I made this joke of like, let's do it. He's like, it's one of those things where, come and debate me. You think, let's debate. I'm like, I'm not going to, in my head, I'm like, I'm not going to debate. I'm not a debate. I don't even, I'm not a debater. I'm not going to meet somewhere and have a debate. I'm a comedian. I'm not like a truth-telling comedian. I'm not one of these comedians that is going to like handle himself. Maybe I would have, but I don't know. But I said, yeah, let's debate the charity. Let's debate for charity. It'll be the Human Fund, which was a joke it was a fake charity from Seinfeld, right? The Human Fund. It was something that George Costanza had set up, and NAMBLA. But thank you. NAMBLA is like a cheap joke. It's just like, of course we're not going to get. Of course we have nothing to do with, like, I don't know about you guys or you, Robbie. Like, NAMBLA was just like a cheap joke. It was not. It's not. I don't know if maybe it was real. I don't know if it is.
Yeah,
but it was just
real,
like
it
was just like an easy punchline.
Yeah, it was just like a lazy joke. It was a lazy, cheap joke. And then as soon as I put it out there, I realized quickly that they took that literally. And then that became like part of how people think of me.
Right. Well, not him, but his like, he obviously knows
right.
better. But
right.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating I just wanted to say, Cernovich, he has a history of, he has a rape charge that I think he sort of wiggled out of on some technicality. Mm-hmm. Alan Dershowitz, he actually worked with him as acting as a legal proxy for Dershowitz.
Right.
And he also associated with a porn star who was actually charged with child rape. And I just find it fascinating that someone like that would have any business calling anybody else a pedophile, or even like sicking his followers after, someone.
And so that's sort of the beginning of this for me. But very recently, I'd say in the past few years, it's somehow caught the attention of the Q, sort of more of like the Q mainstream mom Facebook version of Q, which is far removed from sort of the sludge of Reddit, right? Or of 4chan or 8chan or whatever. It's much more mainstream. And so if you're watching this and you're in that group and you're curious about what we were going to talk about, all this is available online, but my name is Tim Heidecker. I am 44. I really forgot. I think I'm 44.
Not off to a good start here.
I was born in 1976. Somebody
There we go.
crunched those numbers. February 3rd.
Yeah, 44.
My social security number. I am a comedian, an actor. I've produced things. I've directed things. You might recognize me from Bridesmaids.
Mostly a musician, though.
Well, I've done music. I have a new album coming out. I've been sort of a working alternative comedian for over 15 years now. I'm married. I've been married for 13 years. I have 2 children, a daughter who's 6 and a son who's 3. My parents, we grew up in Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania. I was raised Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic. I don't consider myself religious.
Amen.
Amen to that. I consider myself a humanist, I think, if you had to put a gun to my head. So I don't consider myself a Christian. I understand that might be, not how if you're watching this, not how you view your own spirituality, and I accept that. But so that's me. I have a production company. I consider that a small business. So I lead a fairly mundane, boring life. Although it's been, exciting to kind of do what I want to do, which is to make funny stuff with friends, Doug Loosenhop here, and worked on a lot of our shows, and you know, in my regular day-to-day life, it's like, as you can imagine, kind of any dad would. Although I don't have kind of like a normal job, so I sometimes have weird down periods. Sometimes I travel because we tour, you know. But oftentimes, you know, this is getting late for me in the evening because generally we're starting to wind things down in the house. And
can I ask you a question that one of your haters might ask?
Yes, devil's advocate me to the
so based on your bio, why don't you stick to comedy? And you know, keep your political opinions to yourself.
Well, this becomes the problem because our comedy. I do like some of their songs. I don't like intellectualizing or sort of analyzing our comedy, but because it's garnered the attention of you folks, I can sympathize and understand with the fact that a lot of it can be perceived as disturbing or unsettling or inappropriate, sick, gross, whatever you want to call it. Would you agree with that, Robbie? Would you agree with that, guys?
Yeah, well, that's what's great about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have this. We got the opportunity to make TV shows. We have a fan base. We have an audience. And there's something they like about, and something we like about this kind of, horror comedy, we might call it, or presenting kind of disturbing things, gross things, like a lot of bathroom humor.
I don't like it at
and
all.
I want to just say one thing. I know most of you are watching know all this and are rolling your eyes at me and think it might even be lame that I'm kind of granulating this to this level. But I really am trying to talk to people who are very legitimately concerned and confused about what they're seeing. So please bear with me and give me the space and the patience to do that. So, you know, there's the sketch with Will Ferrell that we can talk about. Doug helped edit, and I'm putting this on you, actually. A lot of this is on you. There's a lot of your choices. We had a lot of takes where there was no clowns of any kind, but no, they're
all full grown, and then I just took the kid ones and put them in.
So they were all full grown. We just shrunk them down and edit and put like the Hobbits, like Bilbo Baggins. But so the past several years, this has come up, especially this skit, because it did involve kids, and there was this really, and I'll admit, fucked up sketch where these kids are being sold as clowns. Now, we can just analyze that for 1 second and say, I don't know that such thing exists in the real world. Child clowns. Child clowns. Kids dressed up as circus clowns that are sold for the amusement of people at parties and stuff. Now, you got some evidence that that's like a real thing. I don't want to see that evidence, but if it's true, that's terrible. Kids shouldn't be, dressed up as clowns and sold. But the sketch was really this guy, Steve Mahanahan, who was basically like a used car dealer. He was kind of your classic, these cars are gotta go, like a real just obnoxious, terrible local TV commercial. But we're comedians. We're trying to think of something that's insane and silly and absurd. And somebody, whether it's me or Eric or somebody, comes up with, well, maybe he's selling child clowns. I don't know. Doug, do you remember? Was it me? Maybe it was me. I'd be happy to admit it was me.
I don't remember, but I also don't think you even need to, have to explain this.
Well, they can watch it, but I'm just, I'm trying to put them in
you don't have to explain
headspace.
your reasoning for it. It's like,
I
feel like a bunch of funny stuff. Some of it
like
is sick, and some of it is just...
I feel like I've been put in the corner that if I don't, this is never going away. So,
okay. Put the child clowns to bed.
Yeah. So,
in their cage.
So, and listen, I I can understand if you don't think that's funny. I can understand if you think that's inappropriate or, that's sick comedy. But I just think it's an extreme leap and an extreme, jump in logic and jump in understanding of how the world works to go from these guys made this sketch amongst hundreds of other sketches and all kinds of other things, that this indicates that they are somehow condoning it or involved in it or approving of some kind of pedophilia or sex or child trafficking or of any kind, So this has come up a few times, and a lot of these people have made videos about it, analyzed it. And on Saturday, do you disagree, Doug? You think I should just let this go? Please.
No, continue. Get it off your chest.
I'm getting off your chest. And I'm sorry, Robbie, I really want to bring in this. I just want to set the whole stage.
Okay.
Tommy G. Tommy G, ladies and gentlemen, enters the picture. Do we want me to should I read the tweets about Tommy G, or do we want to talk about who Tommy G is? Robbie, do you want to give us a little background on Tommy G to the extent that you know?
I believe his name is Tony Gelati. He is a former Barstool Sports podcaster. I've heard that name before. He also, I guess, was a co-host of Michael Rappaport's on some sports podcast, and he appeared to be in some kind of bro reality dating show many years ago. And I only saw that from you. You tweeted that. I don't know where that's from.
That's well known. It's well known.
But now he appears to be a Johnny-come-lately sort of armchair conspiracy guy who just jumped from sports podcasting to conspiracy podcasting.
Yeah.
Nice, bro.
I noticed he has it's like listed him as, or he had a screenshot of he was like the number 5 podcast in the sports world or something like that. But that doesn't make a lot of sense because he doesn't have a lot of, I don't know, Matt, did you thought that might be suspicious?
Well,
I guess we could look it up. Who knows?
You didn't have that many reviews, so it just on iTunes, so it just seemed sort of dubious.
So I'm driving back from Joshua Tree, where we had dropped my kids off, and my wife and I were going to have a night at home without our children.
Right.
That sounds like it's going to be a very relaxing, quiet, romantic evening at home. And as I were coming up the hill to my house, I see somebody's tweeted at me, and it says it was somebody that tagged me in this tweet from Tommy G. And Tommy G has tweeted, I guess it's a good time to bring this Will Ferrell child trafficking skit back up. And it was a tweet from a few months ago, from March, and it said, I guess we will start. He's doing a whole thing on Will Ferrell. And he says, I will start with this Adult Swim clip, which is fucked up. Make sure you watch the whole thing because it gets fucking insane at the 2-minute mark. I'll grant you that, Tommy. It's nuts. It is an unsettling. Something that we probably cried laughing at.
That's one of my favorite things that I edited for that show.
Yeah, it's just nuts. And it's so not real. It's so not based on anything that we thought. First, let me clarify. This was over 10 years ago that we made this sketch. So there was no talk about any of this stuff. It's hard to imagine, but we were living almost in like I think it was pre-Twitter, or Twitter had just started, and there was not a lot of this talk. Now people are going to say, but there's been child trafficking going on for years. I agree, of course, but it was furthest. It couldn't have been further from our minds as we were like sitting around a writer's room table, making each other laugh. And a lot of the stuff that Will did was just us like improvising or throwing him lines, And I think there's even behind the scenes footage of that too on the internet that you could look up, that is just us, whatever's coming into our heads. And, there's a tradition of saying fucked up things to make you laugh, right? That's got nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with my point of view in the world. it's just to kind of fucking give you a jolt, you know, or shock you or do whatever. So that was the spirit of it. But anyways, I stupidly, and I've ignored it for so long. I've ignored a lot of other people that have brought it up, and there's a whole YouTube video that somebody ripped the skit and put it up, and it's a Q person, and it's just like, you know, comment after comment, like, I wish I could have my brain erased after watching that, you know. And anyways, I said something obnoxious. I said, you know, dim Tommy doesn't understand it, or, you know, I said something mean to poor Tommy. And Tommy G, not Tommy from the rock opera by The Who, Tommy said, "Oh, Tim Heidecker, you seem a little upset. I would be too if I wrote and starred in a child trafficking skit with Will Ferrell and it was circulating right as your whole industry is about to be burnt to the fucking ground. You don't want this smoke, bro. Lay in the shadows like your buddies." Now, we're laughing, but Tommy G has a couple 100,000 subscribers, or people that listen to him or follow him or on Twitter. So they pile on, you know. And I get home and I'm exhausted by the whole thing. And I'm just tired of it, and I'm angry because at some point I get frustrated being called a pedophile or having my friends being called a pedophile. It pisses me off. It pisses my wife off, and it's just like, how long are we going to keep dealing with this? Because it doesn't seem to be going away. And there's a lot of people out there who are getting, you know, called pedophiles, and it is the worst thing you could say about somebody. So it's no coincidence that somebody like Mike Cernovich or these Gavin McGinnis or whoever uses this to fucking try to ruin people.
This is some straight up pedophile crap.
Yeah. So I say, listen, you know, I'm fucking tired of it. It's exhausting. You people are sick. And it goes back and forth. Tommy says the fucking Z-list actor making a living off of sex trafficking videos. I mean, you know why I mean, there's people that, like, I care about my work. I care about my friends. And I have a temper. And I want to fucking, you know, like put my fist through the fucking screen when somebody says this about me or my friends. And he says, I'd look at the Epstein flight logs to see if you were on them, but there's zero chance you were important enough to be invited.
You son of a bitch.
And then he goes, and this is what got me. He says, and there will be no good night. You just walked into the lion's mouth. So, you know, but we laugh. Isn't it the lion's den? I mean, so I don't know. Find some roars or something. Where's the MGM fucking theme song? So, Robbie, I hope you're enjoying this. I'm gonna bring you into this, but I'm setting this whole thing up. You understand?
Tim, I think you got it all out. I think you're clearly upset, and rightfully so. But these people
stop talking to me like I'm a child.
But I think it's like you said, it's scary as hell because 99% of these people don't believe it. They don't really believe it, or they're just trolling you or whatever. Obviously, the people that are in charge, of these followers, like Tommy G and Weird Mike and all these people, maybe even Alex Jones, they don't really believe it either, but they know it works and it scares the hell out of the people. But the problem is,
he's clearly saying shit just to like rile you up.
Yeah. No, but he's not. No, he's not. He's not trying to rile me up. I don't think he's trying to. I think he's trying to rile. Well, maybe he's like he thinks he's engaging in a little bit of sport.
Sure.
Right?
He was also wasted too. He was,
well, we don't know. That's alleged.
He said he was.
He should call this thing stool sports.
Yeah.
But hold on. I mean,
stool sports.
Listen, I get all that. Yeah. But the replies start coming in.
Yeah.
The replies start coming in, and now we can talk about what the percentage of these people are real, or what percentage of these people are bots. But you know, I just saw your nasty skit with spirit cooker Will Ferrell. As a mother and a nanny, you're disgusting, and I pray the Lord has mercy on you. Because if it were up to me, then there's an axe and fire, and an axe and fire, or it's a hammer. I can't tell if it's an axe or a hammer, but it's hammer and axe, hammer. You know, it's just May the faces of the children you hurt haunt you for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Right?
Better not print no fake news about me.
You wouldn't fight this hard. Do yourself a favor and shut up. The dude owns you, and you are finally giving up some good... no, that's not a good one. Cult? I said this is like a cult, you know? Are you referring to the cult who are fucking babies and young children? Human sacrifice? Human flesh eaters? Child trafficking? Satan's cult? God will win. And then, Tim, you seem scared. You spelled cult wrong. It's patriots. Come on, Timmy, baby. You've been profiting from the debauchery for a while now. You're on your way out. Tommy G is spending his free time to expose the obvious corruption within Hollywood and government. Do you deny that elite pedos have been boinking on private islands? No, I mean, listen, of course, there's Jeffrey Epstein and all sorts of people that, I'm not denying that there's some terrible shit that goes on. I can only speak for myself. This is referring to me, another pedophile spiraling out of control in anger. Nothing can stop what's coming. And then, people post pictures of machine guns. Oh, Tommy G scaring you? Good. At least we don't eat babies or have sex with children. There's a cure for pedophilia, by the way, and then a picture of a fucking machine gun. Right?
Cool. What?
Yeah, seems like you gave a lot too many, and now you're about to realize your actions have consequences. Time is up, pedo. You've got a few, but right. Time is up, pedo. Start talking before the deals expire. So there's a lot of talk about
the deals.
Maybe Robbie, you can talk about this TikTok that's happening. That there is, what is the storm? When is it coming? There's a lot of people telling me that, someone says TikTok, motherfuckers. You really don't know what's coming, do you? So what's coming for me, Robbie, from your perspective, from the research you've done on this situation?
Well, I would say, based on what you said, Tim, and what I already know, is that I don't think these people are going to come for you anymore, because my thought on this is, if we really wanted to, we could play the same game with these people. I mean, Tommy G does associate with someone who has pedophile allegations against him. Tommy G is well aware of this. He knows what compound media is. So I just find it interesting that he would act so threatening. And I think he maybe is a little drunk on power, because he's been referenced in a few of these Slate pieces and other, write-ups recently about QAnon, and they've pointed to him as being the person who got this Tom Hanks body double story out there.
Yeah.
Which is just so odd to think that this random sports podcaster is actually feeding into the QAnon narrative now, and it's not even anything Q itself is saying. It's just a guy with 250,000 Twitter followers.
And he has the hashtag where we go one, we go, he's got that, so people consider him some kind of authority on it. Or,
where we go one, we go all. Where
we
go one, we go all. God bless America.
But so in the Q land, there is this sweep coming. There is this day of reckoning, like the purge, or what knock on the door should I be worried about? Because the knock on the door I'm worried about is the guy that thinks he's doing the arrest, but he's deputized himself, and he thinks that I have some kind of, my day of reckoning is his responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overblow the seriousness of this, because I don't want to fearmonger about it, but it is growing to a point where, there are real people committing real crimes inspired by it. It's become a pattern. The guy who actually killed somebody from the Gambino family thought that it had something to do with Q. He actually, in court, he drew Q and MAGA all over his hand and held it up in his prison, orange jumpsuit.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, this is a real thing. It's growing. But I think back to what you asked me before, what is the storm? What do they think is coming? I think we have to go all the way back to the very first or maybe third Q posting, where Q actually promised within 24 hours, Hillary Clinton's going to be arrested. The country's going to be put under temporary military control. So that was 2 years ago now. Nothing's happened.
Right.
The Republicans keep hinting that Hillary's somehow going to get indicted. It seems extremely unlikely. So this is the I think this is sort of fundamental in the way that they act online. Is they could say TikTok, they could say watch out, something's going to drop tomorrow. I mean, this is literally what they've been saying about everything Q related like the last 2 years. Almost nothing from it has actually materialized, even though they'll always say, Q's been right about this, Q predicted this. There's really no clear specific thing they can point to that Q actually got right. So that's what's sort of fascinating to me about it. So in the end, I do think most of it is empty threats. And I do think since you're actually engaging with these people, hopefully you'll be able to talk some sense into them. But like people like Oprah and Ellen, that this conspiracies just build and build under them. And I don't even know if at that point, at this point, if they said anything, it would go away. Like if Oprah said like QAnon thing and she like did a video about it, I feel like it might actually like get worse, if she even addressed it. So
yeah, I mean, listen, and I can't speak for anybody really but myself, and I can't, I could tell you that I know Will Ferrell. I know him. I don't know him well, but I've worked with him on a few occasions. He produced our movie, and my friend John knows him really well. And has he done sketches and different things, our sketch and other sketches that are in bad taste if for you or whatever? Sure. And he's got, his comedy can get weird, but I also know him to be like a good guy and a family man and all this stuff. So, and I know it's probably wise for him to not get involved at all with this, but, Vic, you were going to read what you...
Oh no, it was not. It was just another death threat. I mean, I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Vic, smile. You're in the spotlight now. Your guilt is palpable. Enjoy the time you still have. See you soon. Love Q.
Well, love Q. So
I added the love. It wasn't that nice.
You mentioned, and sort of the thesis of this conversation, or the reason I wanted to do it, was because in the midst of all this, I would see some tweets that I kind of was curious about and felt like, I'm not engaging with most of them at all. I'm just ignoring it. But there was one that struck me as like, I felt bad for her. And again, this could not even be a person. This could be a sub account that Doug's running. I don't know. Or it could be,
trying to make him feel better. Yeah.
It could be Tommy G's, his other account or something. But I just was like, as a test, let me see what would happen if I engage. And it was this woman. I mean, her screen name is Gigi. She's got an American flag. That's always a good sign that this is a real person. But she said, "So you support people trying to make the sexual abuse of a child a joke?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. The skit above was a totally absurd premise about child clowns, which don't exist. It was made over 10 years ago before all this Q stuff. The skit is meant to be disturbing and creepy. That's the kind of comedy it is. It in no way condones or promotes the idea and it sure doesn't reflect what I do in my personal life. I have 2 kids. Also, I've made hundreds of hours of content. Shouldn't there be more of this? If this is like my agenda, And then she said, "That's fair, and I apologize for jumping on you. I get so sick of these Hollywood producers, writers, actors, etc. tweeting and joking and promoting pedophilia and child abuse that really goes on in the industry. Will Ferrell is big into satanic cannibalism too."
What is that about? Like, why do people think he's satanic and cannibal?
There was this. There's a dinner that he was at with Maria Abramovich. Robbie, can you talk about
cooking?
Maria Abramovich. I'm so close with her. I think I know how to say her name. But what's the laser-like focus that these people have on her? And she's kind of one of like the source points of all this, correct?
Definitely, yeah. It wasn't until after the WikiLeaks, DNC email leaks, and the Podesta leaks, it wasn't until someone named Cassandra Fairbanks very mysteriously discovered, apparently on her own, which I've been told is actually not true, the phrase spirit cooking in the Podesta emails on November 4th, 3 days before the election. And that story was essentially showing that Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother, was ordering Marina Abramovich to come to his home and perform this, what's called a spirit cooking performance. And the performance itself appears to be some kind of like pagan ritual, co-optation or something. Because all the things that she does as a performance artist are just sort of weird and sort of creepy. Some of it's unsettling, some of it's sort of sexually charged.
Yeah.
This one was more just like acting like some kind of pagan ritual where she's drawing with blood, writing with blood on the wall. And that was enough to basically make the whole thing explode. It made Pizzagate seem believable to all these people.
Well, I'm sweating. It's not because, I feel very like, they're getting close to the...
Wiping their eyes and crying.
And it just became this snowball where...
What do you think so do you believe, that happened? That was a thing that happened in their house? Or is it all made up?
I don't know. I mean, from what I understand about her is she is very beloved by certain celebrities, by certain sort of rich high society people that will actually hire her for these,
Lady
she'll
Gaga.
make made out of her body. Yeah. For Lady Gaga. Then
but
everybody.
I don't know everything.
Show kind of thing.
What's that? It's like a show. It's
performance art.
It's a performance.
Yeah.
It's like people with less money would hire a magician.
Yes.
For their party. This is just like a big flex of I know Maria Barbara made that bitch. And she's going to do some crazy shit, man. And you're never going to forget my party. Right? I mean, it's got to be what it is.
These are people that never experienced an art performance.
Yeah.
Just jumping to wild conclusions.
Yeah.
Video with her looking across from her on the chair. I mean, she was already well known before this happened too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure these people regret the hire because it's caused them nothing but trouble, and they probably aren't super fans or whatever. But I mean, there is this weird puritanical, satanic. You call it on your podcast, satanic panic kind of strain that runs through this movement. That when I was a kid, I mean, I remember the Jimmy Swaggart and Jerry Falwell, and the abuse that a lot of the heavy metal groups got about the occult satanic language in their music, and the whole playing the records backwards there's the devil. It does feel like there's a connection to that, right? I mean, these people are calling. I mean, I have other messages from people saying that I'm a satanic vampire. Where is the one? Oh yeah, you and your pedo friends will all burn in hell. Sure, you've been waiting to see your I'm sure you've been waiting to see your father, Satan. Good night and good luck with Q, you baby fucking vampire. And I'm laughing, but it's just, and maybe that's a joke, and that's what's really hard to understand. Is I do think that there is a portion of these people that are that believe that they are, have been anointed by God to deliver his will and protect the children. And then there are assholes who are fucking with me or pretending to care about this shit. And it's impossible to know the difference.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is when it's online coming in the form of tweets. Because, I mean, 8chan and 4chan, these places were sort of the heart center of the MAGA trolling movement in general. So I've only really been able to tell by trying to talk to these people, trying to get through to them. Some people I know in my personal life actually got sort of swayed by Q. I try to talk to them sometimes to try to talk them down or to give them alternate ideas. Unfortunately, it hasn't really done that much good. It hasn't swayed them off of it.
I mean, it's interesting. There must be there must even be factions within Q where you might have people that believe that there's some kind of deep state conspiracy and power, and it's all political and kind of global, kind of more focused on the political angle that isn't so interested in sort of the demonic Hollywood angle. I would think there's got to be those people. They're like, I don't know about the people that think Tom Hanks is eating babies. I mean, that's nuts. But I do think that there is, the storm coming, and that William Barr is going to make mass arrests of Obama and, all these other people. So.
No, you're absolutely right about the second thing is important because, I've only seen a couple of journalists raise this issue, but, part of the reason that I do think somehow this is connected to the Trump campaign on some level is that they are actually that the Trump campaign seems to be actually signaling to Q. I mean, in more ways than just, one, like more than Peter Navarro wearing a Q pin when he goes on television.
Is that true? I've not noticed or heard that. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. And he tweeted 14, I believe, Q accounts on 4th of July. So there's an amped up nature to all this that feels more intense as we're getting closer to the election. But I do think you're absolutely right that a lot of people who are, maybe they're not hardcore Q people, but they still believe in it because there's a lot of things in there that talk about real corruption. So like even just the term deep state, you hear all these Republicans using the term now. Q is very, heavy on using that term. But what's interesting about that to me is the concept of a deep state actually it's a left critique of power. It comes from the sort of the left-wing world of deep politics. It comes from a guy named Peter Dale Scott. And that world, of like analyzing how corrupt the system was and what the deep state actually was, it was never connected before with any of these crazier, like satanic panic conspiracies, this idea that people sacrifice children. That's a whole new thing that Q has done. And it's sort of taking things from the left.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing happened with fake news. I mean, the fake news was co-opted right away by Trump. It started out as sort of a natural expression of the way that, news was being used as propaganda by certain groups that might be, you and I might disagree on, I guess, about what the source of it is. But, suddenly it became Trump's mantra about what fake news is. And that became just all media that disagreed with him.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, what Q seems to be doing, I mean, the primary goal of it is to always absolve Trump of anything wrong.
That's a little fishy.
It gets a little fishy at a certain point when not only are none of these promises materializing, but also just it gets more amped up. And it's like every mistake or every misstep that Trump seems to be making is all explained by Q. And it's all explained in, these random cryptic poems that a lot of them don't even make sense. So Q's narrative right now is generally that everything COVID related in the news is designed to hurt Trump.
Right.
And that's the narrative. Sadly, I think that's sort of the narrative that Q has spun out on. And I actually, maybe part of me was expecting Q to become more clever as it would get closer to the election. And I feel like this is the weakest play.
It's just so blatantly partisan, blatantly political, like part of the campaign. It's just like a wing of the campaign.
It's saying that it's
what's that, Vic? Sorry, Vic has a good job. Go ahead.
One friend said to me, "You have to be the most innocent man in the history of the United States."
He's the most patriotic man too, he said today.
A friend of mine said, "You have to be the most perfect person."
He's friends.
You got a lot of friends.
Why don't you ever say that about me? Vic?
Yeah.
Well, let me bring this back to Tommy G real quick, because a day after this whole shit went down on Sunday, it kind of petered out. And this is what happens. I get it peters out. It's like this whole thing is like herpes, as I understand herpes to be. I don't have it. I don't suffer from it. Vic, maybe you can give us a better perspective on it.
I'll talk about it
maybe
later.
It's lying in remission.
It flares up. And so it flares up. It looks like, oh God, they're coming. They've got the, they've decided to take matters into their own hands because of this fucking comedy sketch. And it's over. And, I'm going to get a bullet in the back of my head. But then it kind of dies down. And then Tommy G tweets yesterday, "Time out." Who the fuck said he was a pedo? Because I think this was in reply to that woman that said, we should apologize. We took it too far. Who the fuck said he's a pedo? I never fucking once said that. I'll do it like Imagine Tommy's stuck. Go read every tweet I wrote. I got jumped by Tim after I attacked Will Ferrell, who I said was a Satanist, because he is. I never once said Tim is a fucking pedo. Don't judge me by my follower comments. Now, that might be a guy that's coming from Chicago, Doug. I don't know. But
Sweet home, Chicago.
This is what they do. They fucking throw some chum and go, whoa. I didn't call it, because, I could probably sue him for coming out and trying to slander me in the way he's doing it. And I'm desperate to sue somebody. Might be Matt, the way he's been handling the show. Might be, who knows?
I'm going to go apoplectic.
But, you know, it's his way of being like, hey, this is getting a little hot for me, you know? And you know what, did he call me a pedo? No, he did not. He made every other way, you know, he did it in every other way possible.
He inferred it.
He did call
Patton.
Call Patton. And Patton's a friend of mine too, and I can tell you that seems very unlikely. I mean, what can, you know, it's like, so the other
why
thing,
are these people so sure that they know, like, like he knows Will Ferrell is a Satanist or whatever he calls
you look at it and it's like again,
how does he know?
It's all
why
the
do
same
people
5
know
pieces of evidence.
everything?
It's all this picture
Why are they
of
so
him
sure?
with Maria Abramovich. It's 5 other comedy sketches, and then the funniest one was somebody posted a picture of him doing like Conan or something because everyone's doing all their interviews from home, and somebody was like, "Look, he looks like he's missing the adrenochrome that he gets from the baby brains or whatever it is." And he looks all tired. He's like, well, the dude's at home with a fucking webcam without him. And, you know, the guy's like 60 years or whatever he is, 50 something years old. And of course he's not looking his best and brightest, you know? So it's all insane silliness. But then the other thing they do, and this is something that scares me as well, is, and they've done this to a lot of people. They did it to James Gunn and a lot of other people. It's ruined some lives. They go back and they do their homework and they try to find all this incriminating evidence. So within like an hour of this Saturday night explosion on Twitter, Vic, I think, texted me and said, "Oh, they're going through your old tweets now." You know, so but here's the beauty: they find. I mean, how many times have I tweeted? Over. It's an embarrassing number. It's a depraved number.
Do you want to know?
Yeah. Do you have that information? I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Oh, you know, it's gone. It's missing.
It's missing.
Doesn't it just say
Twitter wants to hide that narrative?
No.
About
Maybe you
shadow banned that.
You went over the odometer limit. It just disappears.
Yeah. But no, whatever. It has to be at least 20,000, 30,000
People
tweets.
out here call me Q, you know, like the letter in the alphabet.
Yeah, so
there's a clue right there that you are Q.
So somebody within an hour of this bullshit.
They're not looking up that sketch.
So within an hour of this bullshit, Tommy G. It's confusing because I've changed my Twitter handle to Timmy G. So I don't know what I'm looking at anymore, but they find this tweet from August 28th, 2010. Remember those days? It was almost. Well, it was a good 10 years ago.
It was the glory days of Twitter when it was fun.
Yeah. And so here's the tweet they find. This is from me, August 28, 2010. I've been handed a sword and asked to show my loyalty by beheading a dishonorable child. Should I do it? Hashtag restoring honor. Right? So that gets retweeted by Tommy G, Tommy Gelato. Fucking Tommy Italian
He's just
Ice.
trying to throw.
I know, but so then the responses are, sane, decent people do not talk this way. And we've uncovered evidence while looking for justice through retribution. Should we wait for a conviction? Jesus. And then another one for Gitmo, ladies and gentlemen. Another one for Gitmo. And someone warns me, they say, can't delete now. We're going to indict some pedophiles. And then internet is forever, you sick monster.
These people are just dumb. Like, why don't you just ignore?
Doug,
I know,
stop.
I get it.
You understand why I can't ignore.
I understand.
Because I'm invested now. But I'm interested. I want
it's
to
cool
know.
you changed that one lady's mind, though. That's rare.
Joe, well, and I was talking to John about this, and he was like, I want my brain, I want to understand this as hard as it is to understand. As hard as it is to like sort of relate to somebody that feels this way about me after reading that, I want to kind of get my head around it. So I'm sorry, you know, and we'll have a fun show on a Thursday. Guess to be determined. But right now we are. So anyways, I see that tweet and I don't know what the hell that's about, right? How do I know what I tweeted? What was I talking about? What is restoring honor? It's 10 years ago. I have no memory. Google that for me.
Around when Batman Begins came out, maybe?
What's that?
The tweet reminded me of that scene in Batman Begins where Bruce Wayne had to behead somebody for the Shadow League or whatever.
Oh, right. Well, no, it's more biblical actually, because my wife and I'm lying in bed next to my wife. It was supposed to be our night off from the children, right? And I'm consumed by this, and I'm, as you say, Vic, I'm apoplectic, as you say, your best friend Robert Davi would say.
I'm gonna go apoplectic. This has got to stop.
And she's just like, she's starting to get invested and kind of like, well, who is this Tommy G? And like, why aren't you fucking, he's like, her thing was like, why does he fucking call the cops? If he thinks, if these people, he thinks me and Vic and all these people are doing all this terrible things, like, what are you doing by tweeting at us and like threatening us and TikTok? And it's like, well, come on, get me. You're not doing your derelict of duty if you're not, you know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, she gets all mad and she goes, well, let me see. When is that from? And she searches and she finds this Glenn Beck, Sarah Palin event that was on CNN or Fox. It was probably on Fox News. And it was this Restoring Honor event that was somewhere like in DC, in Washington, DC. And somebody wrote a review of my live tweeting of the event is on this blog. And apparently I was live. I mean, that's a thing we would do.
It was a fake live tweet. You weren't there.
I was not there, but I was pretending I was there. So like some of the, and they're all like horrifying tweets, but it's as if I'm reporting on being there. And I guess the angle that I was going for was that this was some kind of like ISIS style mass religious, super dark event. So like, but mixed with kind of like a Coachella vibe, right? So, I found these all, and they were just in this blog, but it says, these are some of them. I won't read them all, but I'm in the Restoring Honor rally, TV not covering this, but there are mass drownings occurring in the reflecting pool. In line waiting to get into the crucifixion tent. Grown men naked, covered in blood, screaming right in front of me. Holy shit, just saw my first crucifixion. No pics allowed. It was dishonorable Chinese woman. It was a dishonorable Chinese woman. So I guess there was a lot of talk about honor and dishonor, and I was, playing with that. And, Beck just awarded the charity, Glenn Beck just awarded the charity medal to himself and announced that he is a proud pedophile. Okay, they should have found that one too. Restoring honor. A lot of people are leaving. And so I was just painting the picture of like a nightmare, right? Neil Hamburger to receive a comedy medal. That's coming. That happened at that event, apparently. Just had a funnel cake. And then, and then it was like, beheading children. So that was the gist of the gag. So I just think it's fascinating that I found that in 2 seconds. Like I didn't know what I was talking about, but I found out what I was talking about in 2 seconds. And these people that are so interested in going into the rabbit hole and finding out what everything means couldn't put together that I did some kind of goof.
I mean, the other aspect of it is, though, the
These
classic
deep researchers.
the Bongino line is,
my entire life right now is about owning the libs.
So
That's
you're
it.
in.
so you
you're
got
angry.
owned.
All they're doing is riling
they upset
you.
you. Yeah, they're riling you up.
You having a good time?
I mean, I think it is part of what it's about. It's like you are, to the left of center. I don't know how far left you are, Tim, but you are definitely have riled up Trump supporters. So it's almost like it doesn't matter that they can cross-reference and stuff and find out the actual truth of it. You just being anti-Trump and being vocal about it is enough for them to almost just like dehumanize you. It doesn't matter if we call this guy, a pedo or a Satanist, because he's like almost like beneath being human to us. And I think that's in a sad way that has been what QAnon has managed to do, is it has sort of indoctrinated a lot of people on the right to believing that it's somehow totally acceptable that if a storm comes, that all the leftists are going to be somehow thrown into a camp
by any means necessary, right? Like, yeah. Well, maybe we had to. Like, and this is what I'm worried about, is that someday there's going to be a document that pops up that I don't know where it came from, but it's something that this happened to me 4 years ago. A divorce document came up because people like to joke that my wife, because I'd gotten so liberal that my wife left me. Okay, that was like a thing on 4chan. Where you going?
I'm getting another Waterloo.
Fair enough. And so one day online, like a divorce document showed up. Have you seen that, Doug? Like,
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was like it was like a fake thing. And people would send that to me and go, yeah, your fucking wife left you, dude.
Why don't you just take your balls out of your wife's purse? Make a stand for one time in your life.
So, and then there was this time when somebody made they just fucking made a tweet up and made a screenshot that said I was like, suggesting somebody bring a bike chain to a protest or something, something like encouraging some kind of violence, and it was just a it was just a screenshot that you couldn't find any record of me tweeting it. And my concern, I guess, would be that the deep fakes are coming and the fake info, fake kind of evidence is going to start coming for me or for Will Ferrell or for Tom Hanks or whoever. And I'm on their level. That's my point, is that when you're talking about Tom Hanks from a career importance, talent perspective, you're talking about people like me.
Sure was damp.
But no, you know what I mean? I mean, that's got to be coming or already there, and it's pretty spooky.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities with just that, but it's almost like you don't even need the deep fakes at this point. That's how crazy I think Q has sort of gotten people riled up, is that they don't even need any evidence. They're willing to claim a random stranger as a pedophile. And, it's even happened to me, Tim. Like, I'll be arguing or trying to reason with QAnoners, and at a certain point in the argument, they'll just say, well, you obviously have something to hide, TikTok, So it's kind of their out, because you really don't have anything but this carrot on a stick promise that somehow, some way, Trump is going to take all these people down. And it's been over 3 years, or actually almost 4 years, and there's no sign, no indication that anybody serious or high level from the Obama administration is actually going to get charged for anything. And this Barr Horowitz, look back report, it's almost kind of merged with QAnon at this point, because a journalist had brought this up, that it almost seems like the Trump administration is trying to reverse engineer some kind of validation of the Q narrative. And I would actually agree with that premise, that he's going to pull something out, even if it's just a document making it sound like Obama or Hillary did felonies, and he's just going to pull that out before the election. I mean, that's sadly what I think will probably happen. But
now it seems like their only play is to go like, we can't do anything before the election, because then it's going to seem political. Yeah. And so now you have to trust that once we win the second term, then there'll be no pressure, and we can make all these moves.
Second term,
some Godfather move, like we got. The night of the baptism of Michael's whatever nephew, and they do the hit on the 5 families.
Well, do you remember when they asked on 60 Minutes? They asked Trump, like, are you going to prosecute Hillary? Going to set this
probably?
Well, here's his answer.
What's his answer?
Here.
I don't want to hurt them. They're good people. I don't want to hurt them.
Like, I don't want to hurt them.
Wait, was that his real answer?
That's his real answer. Yeah.
Wait, about Hillary?
That was about Hillary on 60 Minutes in 2017.
But he said, lock it up, lock her up.
No, that was after the election. He gave up. He's like, no,
they're good people. I mean, they're
good people.
So there's a lot of selective memory going on with everybody with these Q people. So then the question I ask myself is, do I give up and let it go? Let it go. Let it go. Right, Matt? Your daughter is all into let it go.
All the time.
You should offer like a kind of like the like Kreskin offer a $1 million check to anyone who can prove Q is real
awesome.
or something.
I don't want to put that on the line.
Maybe not $1 million, maybe like $100 or something.
Yeah. No, thank you.
No. That's a
no thank what?
No thank you.
Q.
Q. How great is Q though? The name, so perfect.
But I have a theory about people that believe this conspiracy kind of stuff. Is that I think I read an article about this too, but a lot of conservative people are very religious as well, and they need to like explain things that they can't understand.
For sure.
So they use, and they need an answer. There can't just be chaos, and a virus can't just hit. There has to be some boogeyman. They always have to have some kind of, something to blame it on, right? And it's some kind of like, that's why people are so drawn to it. And that's why a lot of these people are also into like religion and stuff. Don't you think there's some kind of connection there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I also
explain myself correctly, but
I think you made a fool out of yourself, honestly. And no, I totally agree.
It's like they have to make sense out of chaos. So then they can't accept that there's no answers. They need answers for
the truth
explanations.
Is my view of the truth. And by the way, how creepy is it that the time now is 9/11?
Oh.
What happened?
That's kind
what
of
happened
weird.
on 9/11? What?
I mean, it's 9/11 on the dot.
Oh, we missed 2020.
I can't do everything on this show. Apparently, Robbie, there was a time that we missed. We were going to make a big celebration of it, but we were in the middle of it. But at 8:20, the military time would have been 2020, 2020. And that would have been a neat thing to just acknowledge, because it's never going to happen ever again in the history of life.
Well, we could do it for the Hawaiians listening.
Yeah. Fair enough. We'll do it for the Hawaiians in 3 hours. 2 hours. So stay with us, folks. We're going all night.
We're going full Rogan.
Well,
the other aspect of I just played that because many people think the Q followers are crazy, but I think a lot of loneliness is there, and there are a lot of single people that are up in age. You got nothing going on, and
there's been a community. I mean, a community has been created.
They get excited. It's like playing games and stuff, and I don't know. It could be. I could see how it could be fun if you got nothing else going on.
And technology is not our friend in this. I think that there's this conversation happening that feels insane to me. That there's cancel culture, and there's this sort of totalitarian. Oppressiveness happening coming from the left that's affecting all kinds of things that I feel people are overblowing. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I'm not like an expert on that, but I feel like over here there's just this Wild West on YouTube, on this net platform, and on Twitter and on Facebook. It's an absolute out of control Wild West where millions and millions of people are watching like videos of a guy. You got to get a better country music. It's not country, it's Wild West. We need some Wild Bill Hickok. But there you go. Rodeo stuff. But that there are YouTube videos where it's like, I watched a guy today who sounded like Tommy G, who was like, here's this interview with George Carlin talking about how he said, listen to this carefully. He says, I didn't go to the mountain and come back a hippie. And it's interesting that he says mountain because that's the name of this MK Ultra research place, and and he's looking at Justin Bieber's tattoos, and he's making connections with symbols, and it's like you could go through anything, and start looking for symbols and looking for.
So Minnie this whole time had a penis dress.
And this guy, you were showing me this guy.
Guy.
I mean, we all grew up with this. We grew up with like Disney putting weird shit, weird sexual shit in their stuff. And is some of it true? Maybe some of it's probably like artists fucking around and.
Which some of the Disney stuff was. It was like the cover of a Little Mermaid. There were little penises in the castles,
but there's this idea that this is somehow signaling to an occult group, an elite occult group, that for some reason I'm a part of a group that is using our art or using our medium to signal things and
we're not a cult,
and to make it whatever, to normalize it. I've heard people say. I don't know what my strategy would be if I was a young, very fringe comedian with very few opportunities beyond this one little show I had that aired at midnight, and I had about 7 other guys working with me on it. And what would be my motivation to implant suggestive iconography or symbolism or signaling about pedophilia? What, to what end? Who's that? You know what I mean? Like that it's, and then it wouldn't come to pass for another 10 years. So I planted something to, it's just like when you break it down from that angle, I just feel like I really hope people take a minute and think about it and think if any of it really connects. And again, I want to stress that you can disagree with the content or you can be offended by the content. I appreciate that, or I understand it. It wasn't made for a mass audience. It was made for kind of a culty cult comedy, not a cult.
We're not a cult.
Yeah, cult comedy in the sense of late night silliness. And you can tweet at me all day that you think I have a sick sense of humor, and that's fine. But I really ask that you stop inferring that me or anybody that I know involved with that has anything to do with any kind of harm towards children.
The real Hillary's dead.
There you go. All right. Any final thoughts? Because I would like to take a few calls if we could still do that, Matt.
Of course.
People
I feel like
Robbie questions
there's so
too.
much to discuss with this subject. It's like,
well, we
don't have to, but
no, I'm not going anywhere. If you want to talk about it, Doug, what's on your mind?
Is Tom Hanks? What's up with him? Is he a Satan baby boiler, or what does he do? And why do people think that? Do you know anything about it?
It seemed to all start. I actually don't know how that allegation started, but it seems like him and his wife getting COVID was enough. According to Q, secretly executed. They believe that, and now that's why the body double thing has come up, because a lot of people think he's already actually been executed.
Right.
Not even just a body double, that when he appeared on the Colbert Show, he was CGI.
Well, this is this is like Paul is Dead stuff from the Beatles.
No,
right?
it is. It's very similar to that. And then the Wilson volleyball in the movie Castaway, I guess, has somehow been weaved into the conspiracy too, that blood smear on it is some kind of code, that I guess Ellen was wearing a sweatshirt on some video she did where she had a similar little drawing on her sweatshirt. So it's just those little things somehow connect together.
You could weave connections if if you spent the time. You could do it with anything. It's not hard to do.
How about Wayfair?
What's that?
Quick rundown on the Wayfair.
Do you know much about Wayfair? All I've seen is sort of the videos that Q. I haven't seen any traditional news coverage of it. And it seems nuts, but I also don't think that Q is a child trafficking website. But listen,
you mean Wayfair?
I'm not Wayfair. What did I say?
Q.
No, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's all. It feels like the other thing is you guys are talking a lot about pedophilia. These people. That's all they can think about, and is sort of telling too, like you said about Tommy G and his association with X, Y, and Z.
The thing is, it could be happening in Hollywood a lot. Like,
well,
it probably is. Yeah, that's the thing.
That one child actor,
Corey Feldman.
It's like stay with the real story. Don't
exactly.
Be like,
what's the director? The X-Men director, Bryan Singer.
The Queen guy.
The point is the real crazy stuff is there's a lot of evidence.
Get the real guilty.
And I'm not. I am not covering for anybody except, like I said, the people I know that I've worked with, and I can only kind of speak to them to some degree. I can't say for certain about anything that doesn't involve me. But I can make judgment calls. But I'm not defending the industry as a whole. I'm not saying that somebody like Bryan Singer seems like he operated some kind of disgusting underage boy sex, party scheme. I mean, and Kevin's,
you are famously friends with Kevin Spacey.
Me? I went to I've been about 12 Christmases. I mean, I've gone on trips. I went to this flight logs. I went to a private island with him. But this is what also this is what drives me nuts is we're making a joke, and now
that joke.
And now Q says,
"Oh shoot, I laughed at that."
Q says that this is never funny. This is never funny. So even if our sketch, the child clowns, even if that was not signifying that any kind of sort of coded shit, it's never funny, and that's where I just personally disagree, because I think it's all context, and it's all
they're just like these Jimmy Swaggart types who
puritanical,
and then they're the real deal creeps.
Well, I was gonna say the whole thing how it, like calling everybody pedophiles when they're actually not. It waters it down, but that's ultimately the goal, because Trump has all these clear connections to.
They're trying to throw off the scent.
They're muddying the
but
waters.
I don't even know if it's that strategic. I don't know if it's that.
I think initially I feel like Pizzagate was
right,
Robbie?
What do you think that? Like, do you think that they're using this tactic because it deflects from the real pedophilia that
then
might
we're starting
exist
to think like them. You know what I mean?
Here's what's interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the Errol Morris documentary with Steve Bannon called American Dharma.
I didn't watch that because I heard it kind of gave him a pass, but I would be interested to hear about it.
The most interesting interchange in it is Errol Morris brings up the Access Hollywood tape, and then they go through the whole process of how, then Trump had the Clinton's alleged rape victims right before the debate following that Access Hollywood tape drop, how the Podesta emails came out within an hour after the Access Hollywood tape came out, which is emails generated Pizzagate. So Errol Morris sits Steve Bannon down and he's like, so basically the Hillary campaign says you're a rapist, and your campaign's response is no, you're a rapist. And that's kind of how it escalated from there. And I believe at some level that is how Pizzagate and QAnon sort of stuck, as they're an extension of this very dirty political war that each campaign kind of
like a playground fight, basically.
Yeah, that just escalated to a ridiculous degree.
And and to extrapolate to a place where there are babies being mutilated and sapped of their life, it just feels like science fiction, and
the adrenochrome or whatever. Like, has there ever been a bust where they find the adrenochrome and they have the evidence and the forensic evidence? Like, has this ever been documented?
So the adrenochrome, we've talked about this before, but I just want to give clarity that there is this thought or concept, or it's true to some degree, I guess, that there is a gland that we have or infants have. I don't really know the science of it, but that can be extracted, that has like adrenaline in it. It has like all kinds of, I mean, it's the only thing the only time I've ever heard of it before all this mess was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the Hunter S. Thompson book, where it was like a thing that he got this little vial of the stuff, and it was from a dead person or something. But
the actual QAnon people believe now that even if like they'll admit that their adrenochrome's been around for a while, but the actual like pharmaceutical grade stuff is not what these elites are doing. Their belief is that they actually need to like harvest it from live children, and that's like a different style of adrenochrome that gets them really high or something. I don't really understand where it came from, and I don't even know if anyone is like recreationally doing any form of adrenochrome ever. Maybe there's reports on Arrowwood or something. I've never heard of it.
And just to clarify, like you said, you kind of alluded to this earlier, or maybe you said it, that a lot of this stuff isn't even coming from Q.
Yeah.
It's coming from the rumor mill associated with Q, or posts associated with Q, and then it just seeps into the narrative and becomes just the mythology of the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So Q has specifically mentioned adrenochrome, and Q has sort of led people down that path. I think people
has mentioned adrenochrome, okay,
but not like the specific steps that I've just laid out to you. Right. It's like people have filled in those gaps. But Q has used the word demon, to describe George Soros. It uses the term "these people are sick" a lot.
Let me ask something, Robbie. That I really enjoyed your podcast, but the one thing I think you didn't discuss, and maybe you could talk about quickly here, is George Soros, because his name comes up a million times with everybody. Yeah. And I don't know, what's your point of view on him? I mean, obviously he's a very wealthy guy with a lot of some kind of power in the world. I mean, I don't know enough about him, but I don't feel like it ever gets explained.
It's mainstream. The conspiracy against him is mainstream. You see that on Facebook from
from
moms and stuff.
Fascinating because
certain moms will post about that.
Q has gotten everybody's focus only onto a few oligarchs. How many billionaires and powerful people like George Soros are in the world? we're not hearing Q talk about Sheldon Adelson and Robert Mercer.
Right.
These two,
or the Russian oligarchs that have
Who are those
controlled the whole.
Who are those guys you just mentioned?
Well, Sheldon Adelson is an interesting one because one of Q's main themes. This is a huge contradiction in Q that anyone who really wants, let's give people the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume some of these people aren't satanic panic people. They're drawn in by the QAnon narrative about the deep state. Right. Even if that's the case, I want to challenge them to actually look at Sheldon Adelson's connection to the Trump administration and how much of the Trump administration's policy is actually driven by basically the Israeli lobby. So when you see the QAnon post about what Trump's agenda is, it has this, America first, where this is all about getting rid of any foreign actors. This is all a nationalist agenda. It's get rid of all these foreigners is sort of the narrative. So they see George Soros as some kind of conduit that is like basically kind of making all these foreign plots explode in the United States. But what's so odd is Trump, has all these connections to Israel and Netanyahu and Sheldon Adelson. And I'm not even talking, I won't personally think the Russia connections are that, anything near what how the media described them. I think the Israel one is actually an interesting omission from Q that would particularly bother even some of those people on, 8kun, because they're like, so I don't know.
Let me talk to, there's Michael D is in the Zoom and he's incredibly anxious to speak. So let me see if I can.
Mike D.
On Mike D but
where's Ad Rock?
I can't control your mute and Matt just stepped out for a sec. So Vic, something you wanted to say?
No, I was just going to say Matt's not here, but
right.
What was I going to ask about? I forget what I was going to say.
I can't unmute, unfortunately. Doug?
Oh, yeah, let's talk about...
Point of order. Matt, can we talk to Michael D in the Zoom?
I need 1 second
okay.
to do a little...
We all wore our diapers. Why are you going to the bathroom? Tim said to wear them tonight.
Robbie, I really appreciate you spending time with us. You're welcome to stay and maybe answer some questions from people.
I'd love to, yeah. I'll stay as long as you guys are.
You filling up the diaper?
Uh-huh.
And listen, I feel like, and everybody can go, oh God, you start looking at our work and you can make all kinds of the wrong assumptions about where we're coming from. And you can isolate things. You can sort of, like you're doing with all these other things, find codes. There's incredible amounts of pizza in our work where we goof around about the idea of pizza. And,
I want to give my blood.
Sick demon stuff where, Will Forte's I'm a demon horse sketch. Like, God, you can, if we're going to Gitmo and there is a trial and the judge is a QAnon believer, I'm going into the pit because of the way that sort of randomly some of our material kind of coincides with
interdimensional vampires.
Some of the crap these guys are thinking about. But so I get it. It's just that it's now snowballing and it's becoming like it is for Ellen or Will Ferrell or Tom Hanks. It's now just like pervasive it's not going away. And that's why I'm talking about it, because I can ignore it and it's not going to go away. Or I can talk about it and maybe at least you guys know what's going on with me. I like to make this show very much about what's going on with me. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not embarrassed by my life. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my work. And I think what we try to do is make people laugh or think about the world in a different way. Some of their songs. And that's all I've ever tried to do, is really make a living doing this. And it's getting, it becomes sad when it's like, I just want to fucking give up and stop. And maybe get off Twitter. And maybe that's what I do. I mean, and that's the question I'll be dealing with for the next few weeks is like, do I just go, you know what? This website is dog shit and it's a bad place. And it's where these people this is the bar that they hang out, and I'm not going to this bar anymore. And if you want to hear from me, here's the show.
Get someone to run your account to just say, hey, Office Hours is coming up in an hour. Tune in.
And join patreon.com/Office Hours Live, and I'll send my weekly blog and post there more. And you know, and it's clean.
Folks, the phone lines are open to Patriots.
Who were we trying to?
I
made you co-host.
Sorry. Okay, thank you.
My bad on that.
Who was raising their hand? And be honest.
getting excited.
Be honest. No, you weren't. I see. There was somebody.
Hello.
Let me see if he's back on this page.
Yeah, I unmuted someone, but I don't know where he went.
Let's get a Q head up here.
Well,
are there any
this
Q
is
heads?
anybody? Are there Q believers?
Oh, Michael D looks.
Michael D. That's who I wanted to talk. Okay, Michael D. Michael
Hey,
D. What are you friends with Tommy G now?
Hey, look, I'm trying to keep my my identity on the down low. We got these Q guys out here now. No, sorry.
That's
but
okay.
No, look, that's awful. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna abandon that bit. I think
You took a swing and you missed, but we're here to support you and we appreciate
all right.
you. What do you got on your mind? You seemed eager to talk.
What do you got on your shirt?
No, I mean, long time listener. I mean, huge fan. I watched Mr. America recently. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
But I just think it's so funny that you have to even acknowledge this kind of thing that's going on. Like, but I note that it comes from a point of interest. You know, like how people can be thinking this way. And that's sort of the reason for delving deeply into this sort of a Twitter beef kind of a thing, you know, because, you know, normally you could just turn it off. You say, okay, fuck this guy. Who cares what he's thinking?
Well, and I've said this before, two things. One, I could do that. I think if I did that, I think there would be some kind of heroin-like withdrawal where I would be wondering, what are people saying? And is there a guy sending me a message saying, I'm coming to your house, get ready for the apocalypse, you know? There's part of that. But there is part of this like kind of just fascination with it or interest in it. And I do think for the past several years, I've pushed out these people. I've tweeted them and stuff so that people like you know that this is out there and these people are thinking like this and there is this level of vitriol and this level of delusion. And I've taken it on me a little bit to be the guy that gets in the dirt with the mud or whatever. I mean, it's definitely damaging to my mental health.
I think it's just interesting that these people are picking and choosing certain bits, which are all satire. It's all satire that you guys are doing. It's whether it's the clown bit or whether it's the Oscar specials threatening to have the Queen rain hell down on the Oscars or like whatever it is. You know?
This is the key is a lot that maybe people don't see. And it's funny. And my friend said to me is like, you know, it drives people nuts when they don't get something. And I understand that when, you're just like, I don't fucking get why are people laughing at this? It's not funny. I get that can be very frustrating and sort of like humiliating too. But listen, we're never presenting sympathetic characters. We're not asking you to root for the guy that's selling child clowns. We're not like, isn't he a nice guy? Like an example where you're the sympathetic side of that, like Woody Allen in Manhattan is dating a high school kid. And now this is the 70s, whatever, still fucking weird and wrong. He's dating in the movie. Jesus, Max, she's 16, it's crazy. I think I'm in love, and he's the fucking hero of the movie. That's sick. Like that's fucked up and disturbing to me. And what about fucking Steven Tyler or Jimmy Page or all these classic rockers where the idea, or Ted Nugent, the whole culture of the whole culture of like the groupie, right, Vic?
Oh yeah.
You were showing me this.
Oh yeah.
What was that rock and roll book that you had?
I took it from the Airbnb that I was in. I just
well, that's like, illegal.
I
so.
know. Well,
but no, what was that quote?
It was Jimmy Page. He
it was like
one
of the famous
section,
groupies.
Yeah, it was a whole section.
Got her first taste of Jimmy Page when she was 14 years old.
Yes.
And it's like,
what?
That's like right there for anybody to.
Steven Tyler married a girl. What was she, 15 or something? He got her
it's
parents
there,
to
folks.
hand it over.
I'm not.
He adopted her.
I don't want to sick anybody on anybody, but that's an example where it's sort of just treated as, well, that's just rock and roll. You know, it's like.
Oh, don't let those people get a hold of that Rock and Roll Gary interview.
Oh no.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, but that was that's more satire. I'm making fun of that shit. It's like, so yeah. I mean, R. Kelly. Like, there's plenty of pedophilia or disgusting misogynistic treatment of women that's just flagrantly out in the open. That's flagrantly out in our culture. I mean, the whole '80s was filled with, you know, David Lee Roth or you know, Poison or whatever it was, and you know, not necessarily all about underage kids, but
reluctantly
just
aroused.
this disgusting.
It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused.
Speaking of 80s.
Yeah, but you know, and Trump, you know, there's a fucking lawsuit that sits in court somewhere, you know, the 13-year-old alleging that she was raped by Trump, right? I mean, it's all there, and it's all like prevalent in culture, and that these people have found our little nook where we're kind of satirizing certain elements of, you know, and we didn't even get into that kind of stuff, but I mean, just look at Manhattan. I mean, I grew up on those movies too, and there's that line in Annie Hall. It's a classic movie. It's not a classic. That's an unfortunate line, but
I'm dating a girl.
Yeah, he's like, I'm
Homer.
dating twins, Max, 16 years old. And it's like, what? Like, even then, I was sort of like, 16? What?
I hate to interject kind of on this, but speaking of Woody Allen, he gave this interview, or Alec Baldwin did an interview with Woody Allen recently.
Oh, recently?
And I think Tom Sharpling and Julie Klausner, they do a podcast, and they have
what's it called? I want to plug it.
Double Threat.
Double
I think.
Threat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. They just absolutely tear apart this ridiculous interview that Alec Baldwin does that essentially like says it's okay, Woody. Like, you know, it's all good.
Yeah.
But
So anyways, thanks, Michael. Does anybody Matthew Deloach, we'd like any questions for Robbie would be helpful too for him. But Robbie, if you feel annoyed by my audience, please by all means sign off and we'll talk later. But stick around until we wrap things up as well. You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Matthew,
Deloach is on,
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I wouldn't feel so bad about these trolls. They're just trying to get reaction out of you, you know?
Okay, well, thank you. We've covered all that in many different
sign of support. I thought that was very.
It was nice. Thank you, Matthew.
Somebody with a question
we understand
for
that
Robbie.
perspective.
Stephanie.
I have Landon Alexander Callahan with us.
Yeah, not Stephanie. Sorry.
Okay, Stephanie.
Stephanie,
next.
you're next. That's what we'll do now. That's an advanced way of handling it.
So my question
Matthew,
is,
I just want to say, Matthew, I appreciate that sentiment. I feel like we've covered it. That yes, I understand. That's your we understand that perspective. Thank you.
All right.
Landon.
Fantastic then.
Let me know if what do you got for me, Landon?
So my question is, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the Q stuff, but I was kind of interested.
You should be by now.
Well, now I am, but I feel like there's a lot in common with sort of that alt-right sort of very online aspect. So I'm wondering, like, it does seem very culty, but obviously it's not going to be a cult in the sense of like these people don't get together in real life. So how hard do you think it is to pull these people out? I feel like if you're in a cult in your everyday life, it's much more difficult because
that's
people
a great
can
point.
shun you in real life. But there is a little bit of that social pressure of like all your online community, all your Twitter followers. If you question them, are they just gonna pull out, or is it more nuanced where there are some people, like Tim was saying, where some people are like, I don't think they eat babies, but you know, Hillary should be in jail, where it's like those people might be a little bit more reasonable and might be able to pull themselves out. How deep in do you think most of these people are?
Robbie?
I mean, I think it's all across the spectrum. It seems like the biggest problem that I've seen, since I released my podcast, I sadly had several people reach out to me and say, you know, it wasn't until I listened to your podcast that I realized how deep, like my mother or my father or my brother was into this. And it seems the people who get deepest into it are people who don't really have that much going on and maybe don't have a job. You know, like I heard from somebody whose mother lives with them. They take care of their mother. And the mother is just completely down the rabbit hole. And they're able to convince the mom, you know, to not go outside and expose herself to COVID, luckily.
Mm-hmm.
But the mom actually believes it's a hoax. But the daughter is still able to actually sort of lead her in the right direction, make sure she's safe. So I think in certain aspects, it's like these people are not, most of the people who are into it are not committing violence. They're probably not deep into it enough to just go out there and try to expose themselves to COVID also just as a stunt. I think that's more of a rare thing, but I would say, unfortunately, from my experience, it's been very, very difficult to even pull people out of it who are in my own social circle, who know that I have like a podcast that I've been doing for 10 years and I study politics. Like I've tried super hard to pull some of those people out of it and it hasn't been effective. And that's sort of daunted me thinking like, wow, this is, even though as you described, it's not a cult where they have meetings and stuff, it still feels like one because it's very, very hard to convince somebody that they're just believing in all this nonsense. And
it's very hard to prove a negative, right? I mean, what can you say? You don't have evidence that this isn't happening because what would that be, And
it's a lot of it's about what's about to happen. So it's like, no, just wait. Do something. Like, okay, well, how long do we have to fucking wait?
Trust the plan.
Trust the plan. And now it's become commercialized. There's merchandise. There's shirts and pins and posters. And so it's seeping into, songs. I know there was the president of the New York Union or the president of the cops union or whatever in New York, NYPD union. He was displaying it in some interview and
terrible.
There's Congress people now. KW the clown. What's your nickname for him, Doug? Clown
Wimp.
Clown
Wimp
Wimp
Williams.
I keep saying Williams. It's Clown Wimp
Miller. Sorry.
But people are now, and Tommy G is another grifter who there's people are going like, hey, I could see an angle here. Yeah. Like there's this cool letter with the flag
a couple
in
years
it.
ago when it first started, just for the hell of it, I didn't really know what it even was, but I just put together a stupid video of Trump coming out at a rally, but I changed it so I don't know. I think I put the time was 17, which is the Q or whatever. But then I had him come out to all these Queen songs and anything that had a Q, and I just overdubbed it with that, and it went viral. I put it on Reddit.
Evidence, right?
It was everywhere. Went on Twitter, everything, and then 2 days later, somebody figured out this guy's fucking with us, and they pulled it.
Does anyone think that
pretty easy, pretty gullible people?
I mean, does anyone think that because I'm vocal, because I had KW on and we had Mark do a bit where he was doing Q and I've did a song about Q. Because I remember this first came out, there were people that were, I think maybe correctly scared of it or sort of intimidated by the potential, size of it and danger of it and said, I'm not going to really get near it because it's so toxic. But me and Vic, we could goof on it a lot and kind of clown on it, use it as a butt of, it can be, I would think it could be kind of hurtful if you really believe it because this is your identity. Is that connected to the attention that we get with, the clowns and stuff or is it just coincidence?
No, it absolutely is connected because if you look at what people QAnon hates the most, Q, I should say. Doug corrected me. He said an angry Q person contacted him and said, Robbie's not making a distinction between Q and QAnon. So the poster is actually, I guess, called Q and the followers are more QAnon. But no, I mean, I think that QAnon will go after anyone that's really aggressively going after Trump. That's sort of the weird thing about it is Bill Maher is one of the most hated figures of QAnon. And he's constantly talking about these red shoes that Bill Maher wears and the name of his
nobody likes Bill Maher, right? I mean,
yeah, but I think it's is this all about that lawsuit and Bill Maher calling Trump an orangutan? There's just so many things about it that it just it all relates to all the people who have pissed off Trump the most in some way.
Well, something funny occurred to me last weekend because Tom Hanks came out with a new movie, which I've been told by my Soros puppeteers to promote. No, but he came out with a new movie, Greyhounds, a World War II naval battle movie, which I watched because I love.
His double did.
Yeah, I love World War II movies, and it was pretty well done. But in my head, I was thinking, the cross section of the audience for this movie and Q seems very like maybe it'll flop because the sort of the sort of Facebook aunt and uncle that have now become what Q is seems like that would have been 5 years ago the audience for the new Tom Hanks World War II movie. You know what I mean? But apparently it did very well. So maybe it's hard to know. I don't know. I mean,
I have a question. Like, is there a way to quantify how many people believe this? How many are? Is it that important to Trump? Is it that? I mean, it must be if they're like kind of like embracing it a bit. But how many? Is it millions of people? Would you say?
I would say at this point it's probably at least, yeah, I would say dozen, like maybe 20, 30 million, 40 million. I mean, that's what it's like to me. But if you polled people right now, the problem is you would have to ask them very specific questions that are very specific to Q, because a lot of people believe in the overall narrative that Q talks about, but they might not even necessarily know about Q. Like even Sean Hannity, if you watch the program, he sounds like he's just QAnon now. I mean, I'm not kidding.
Most people must recognize the Q iconography and the sort of merchandise surrounding the Where We Go One and all that stuff.
Yeah,
that
you would
must
have
be pretty pervasive by now.
Yeah, you would have to almost poll people with those specific like statements and be like, do you recognize what this means? You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a significant part of the country at this point. I mean, I'm totally making this up. I have no idea, but wouldn't be surprised if it was over 25% of the country. I mean, that's
25, that seems extreme, but I don't know numbers. I mean, it's hard to say because there's videos with like millions and millions of views. That doesn't necessarily mean, there's a lot of people like me watching who are like curious, curious, or just sort of like keeping an eye on
But
shit.
those narratives get in there. I remember years ago, someone was like, I heard, Hillary's drinking kids' blood now. Just like something like, a friend of my
I think people do post some of the Q stuff, but they don't know what Q is.
Right.
It's just like memes and whatever.
Yeah. Let's get some perspective. We've got some folks from down under.
Okay. There's some guy, by the way, Matt, Brendan, who's sitting there with lotion and toilet paper, and I'm very concerned why that's... Can I talk to him first? Brendan, what do you have planned? What are you doing there?
Look
what do you
at that.
plan?
That's gross.
Do you know what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
You see what I'm seeing?
I see that.
Brendan.
I don't want to see it. We've talked to Brendan.
Toilet paper.
I have a quick question.
Okay, but you understand the framing you've created for yourself here.
He had his hand.
Yeah, I'm glad it got me attention. I have a quick question.
I'm not condoning it. Listen, I don't masturbate. I don't think that's a healthy thing to do.
You're no fap.
Yeah, I try to contain. I have that condition that Trump has where I have a battery in my that thing he has where he thinks that. Do you know about this?
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't know about this? This is fascinating.
No.
This is this has been reported, but Trump doesn't believe in exercise because he believes that we have a finite amount of energy. We're like a battery, and that the people that exercise a lot are draining their battery and will eventually that's why their energy's low, is because they're working too hard. So he thinks there's like this. Look it up. It's totally. Wow. In interviews, he's talked about it. That's
use up all your juice and your.
You only have a finite amount of energy. Maybe he's right. Anyways, Brendan, what do you have quickly?
Oh yes. In the movie Us, there are some background extras during the frisbee scene on the beach.
And in the movie Us, there are some background extras in the frisbee scene.
Yeah, on the beach.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you got to meet any of them, or if you had any experiences with them, because some of them are known by my brother.
The answer would be no. I don't associate with background actors. What's their connection
to George Soros?
Thank you, Brendan. Good luck with your ejaculation.
Masturbation?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, goodbye.
My instinct was right on.
Yeah, you're sorry.
Let's talk. We were supposed to talk to Stephanie.
We're going to go a full 2 hours, folks. We're going to go to 10 o'clock. How do you like that, Doug?
Stephanie, you're on.
Stephanie.
I'm into it. I'm just getting warmed
up.
up.
No.
Hey, I'll go to 3.
Yeah.
I'll do a fucking full Rogan.
Let's go to midnight.
Yeah, nowhere to be.
I got all night. I got nowhere to go.
All right. All right, we'll do it. We'll do a full.
Stephanie's mic doesn't work after
Stephanie
all that?
says.
Give me the
Robbie
one
just.
second.
Nope, it works now.
Robbie's like, oh man, they're gonna.
No, Robbie, go whenever you want to go. Stephanie, what do you got?
Go to sleep.
Well, I got a Robbie question.
Don't
It's
go
like
to sleep.
A Robbie
like
question.
an advice
Yes.
thing.
Okay.
So, Robbie, you were saying there are people in your life who have been kind of pulled into the QAnon thing, and you haven't really been able to like talk them out of it or anything. I have that situation with my dad, and so I guess what I'm curious about is how have you handled those relationships? I've tried for a while, like I got him to read like a summary of the new Jim Crow, or like I'm trying to get him to see other stuff, but sometimes I wonder if like it's even good for my mental health to be in contact with someone who's kind of that off the deep end.
Yeah, that's a hard one, especially if it's your dad. I mean, the people that have been in my life are like friends in my social circle. So I guess I'm lucky that I don't have to live with them. The only advice I really have, Stephanie, is, it's toxic, I think, to engage with that stuff for too long. I mean, like I just get depressed, like the little effect that I've had trying to convince my friends out of it. I would say, maybe send him my 2-part podcast about QAnon.
This fucking self-promotion shit is just, I'm sorry. I totally endorse that, Robbie. I'm just kidding.
There's another article by this author named Whitney Webb, who wrote an article for Mint Press News that actually tries to debunk QAnon. It came out about a year and a half ago. That swayed some people that I knew. And actually Q actually responded to it and said a bunch of weird cryptic crap about it. So I think maybe, and I don't, like I was going to just say maybe send him that like Atlantic article about Q, but I think at this point, anyone who's really into Q will see anything mainstream media and be like, that's fake news. That's Soros. That's X, Y, and Z. You almost have to show them something from alternative media that seems kind of conspiracy hip that is destroying QAnon. And I guess that's sort of what I'm trying to do. So it's sort of, it's hard to find stuff like that. So
what was your relationship with your dad? What is your relationship with your dad aside from this issue?
Sorry, I got to unmute her for the.
Go for it.
It's like it's become better recently. There was a while where we like weren't really on good terms, but recently we started. I don't live with him, thankfully.
Right.
Even during all the Corona stuff, I still have like my own place, but all my siblings are with him right now. I got like a little brother who's always like, "Where's Stephanie? Where's Stephanie?" And I'm like, I don't want to go.
I mean, you can just set. I know I have family members that I don't agree with about anything politically, and I think it's unfortunate, but you just have to kind of create like boundaries about. You know what? We're not going to talk about that. And it kind of limits what you talk about, and it does become a little artificial. The relationship does become. Because politics and the worldview, and it's become very intertwined into talking about anything. If you're talking about like, it becomes cultural. It becomes like, what kind of pizza do you want, and that becomes a conversation. It becomes an argument, or the weather. Well, I don't know.
Careful with the pizza stuff.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. We don't do pizza in this house. After I read what I read, I don't want to send the wrong signals. So. Yeah, it does become like, ooh boy, what are you talking about? But on a larger scale, you're got to be in your 20s, maybe. You're an adult.
27.
You're an adult.
Yes.
You're going to be forming relationships that in oddly are stronger or more valuable to you than you have with your parents. And I think you're going to have relationships with a significant other, very close friends that. It takes a while to realize that that's happening, but you go, oh, I am actually much closer to this person than I am with my parents. And the relationship with your parents becomes a little less important. It changes, I guess. And it doesn't have to really be based on a common point of view. You can love them and be there for them, or they can be there for you, but sort of them approving of the way you think, or you approving of the way they? I think that fades in your 20s and into your 30s.
You grow past your parents.
Right?
I heard a technique of talking to parents where you
Please
kind of
share.
you kind of say, you don't really argue with them. You kind of just say, well, how did you come to that conclusion?
Mhm.
You know, and just make them question their own like sources.
Big loving your parents.
Yeah, I mean, I told this story about talking to my mom about the statues and cancel stuff, and yeah, you can
cancel your parents. That's what we got to
get into
Tear
it
them down
and
like a statue.
They want to take
you
down
can
Ulysses
all everyone can
S.
pull out their the issue now is everyone can pull out their phones and be like, yeah, but if you look at this, then you'll
Right.
see that that's wrong. And then everyone,
It's just
but it
endless.
gets emotional and it gets personal. And I think you can just create boundaries where you just don't get into it with your dad. And with all due respect, I don't agree with you. It's not helpful to debate. It's not healthy. I love you, but can we
Something
talk
I
about
always say
something
is,
else?
if they're saying something I don't feel like dealing with, it's like, I hear you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I hear what you. I
Sometimes
hear
it's just
words.
better
I
to
hear
just
you.
kind of go yes and them to death.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm with you on that one.
Find
Anything
something
else?
you can agree with.
Right.
Do you
Maybe
like
we should start something called QAnon Anonymous, which is like a group we can go.
Well,
and
that's a
talk-
podcast already, isn't it? The Q Anonymous.
Oh, it is it?
Which,
Is
by
it
the
called
way,
QAnon
listen to those
Anonymous?
guys.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys do a great job of reporting, I think, on the world of Q out there. There's
They're
a
like
great
QAA.
podcast. Anyways, let's take a couple more calls. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with your dad.
You can't take down George
You want to get
Washington's
heavy? There's a heavy.
statue.
Like an overweight person? What are you talking about?
It's a heavy
Canceled.
topic that
Okay.
someone wants to share about something very.
Well, you can't say that and then not do it.
Well,
Of course I'll do
of
it.
course he could say no. All right, QB.
Q. Q himself.
Hi, it's actually my real first initial, but I just wanted to open up a little bit.
Christopher.
I'm actually a victim of pedophilia for about 6 years, and the Q stuff is so hurtful. Like people who are actual victims. I mean, I know there's a serious problem in Hollywood and stuff, but it's so funny that like it's actually an epidemic. And so how are these people actually missing the real pedophile?
Well, how
Like,
can you
I
talk
think
about your experience in a way that is comfortable for you or safe or whatever? Like, give us a little context.
Yeah, it was a family member when I was really young. So
Right.
it was a long time ago. It wasn't like a stranger or anything. And that's another thing. Like the way that these people imagine it is like, kids being held in cages as like clowns or whatever, which is not how it actually goes. The way it actually is, it's going to be like an older cousin or like an
Right.
uncle or a step parent or something like that. They completely ignore that. The
Famous
real,
pop singer
real
or-
epidemic of like millions.
Well, it's crazy that you mentioned that, Tim. I don't know if you saw this, but they actually the people who are running the child sex trafficking hotline to like report actual human trafficking said that the Wayfair conspiracy actually clogged up their phone lines for like multiple days. So that's exactly what you're saying. These conspiracies actually serve to harm real victims of child abuse. That's what's so crazy ultimately about this.
And we
Not
haven't
only-
talked about, I mean, we haven't even mentioned the Catholic Church. The
Yeah.
Catholic Church is right out there as this giant elephant in the room that is out there. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of good coverage of that recently, and there's, I guess, some reform has happened, maybe not enough. I don't know enough about it, but yeah. And so QB, you are a follower of mine, a fan of mine, or know who, obviously you're not coming into this. So when you see me
Yeah.
when you see the attacks coming at me, and that must trigger you in some way because you
It's
see.
insane because I love your work. Your work's fantastic. Obviously, as like a struggle that someone who's had that kind of trauma has is that you have to disengage between reality and like trauma.
Right.
And so obviously like television shows are a good way to do that because it's something that's clearly separated from reality. So when some people are like, oh, this is a symbol of what is really happening in real life, like a clown skit, which is really funny. And I really like it. I really like all your guys' stuff.
Yeah.
It just makes it's so harmful.
Yeah, I mean, there is that sort of comedy of the gallows humor, just like you have to laugh at horrible things or you will go insane. That's a big part of Jewish comedy and Jewish humor is sort of that kind of cathartic laughing about the most grim sorry state of things, you know, and we're not necessarily coming from that angle, but there is that, I think, always in our work, in a lot of our work, there is just this painting a very dark, you know, grim experience and laughing at it or extrapolating that into absurd situations. And, you know, I don't know. I think I've heard from enough people that find some sort of weird comfort in that or some kind of catharsis that, you know, it's just about the opposite of what these people think is going on. And again, I'll say this a million times. You don't have to like it. I don't expect everyone to want to watch it, but it's a big difference between doing that kind of comedy and then going off into the dungeon with the black robes, like we're in Eyes Wide Shut. And there is some kind of, you know, like what's the movie with the Dragnet movie? Remember Dragnet, where there was like the satanic cult in the, it's a Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks. No. Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd. It's from like the 80s, and it's like the third act of that movie is them discovering this like satanic cult where they're like, you know, it's just like it's such an old trick. It's an old move of creating a monster and using that as like a real focal place to to rile people up, to create. I mean, what's the thing you sent me, Vic? I grabbed a quote from this, from the pedophilia is the oldest trick in the book. I just want to read this.
Used it for.
I mean,
hundreds
it's
and hundreds of years.
Yeah, this is from a Wired article when the Tom Hanks thing came out. It's an article called Pedophilia Claims the Oldest Trick in the Book. And one of the paragraphs is, establishing your opposition as a subhuman beast has been justification for the harshest forms of retaliation. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, European Jews were accused of kidnapping Christian children to use their blood in religious rituals. I mean, does that ring a bell, anybody? Also, throughout the 19th and mid-20th centuries, European Jews were the victims of pogroms and the Holocaust, where false pedophilia charges go. Where false pedophilia charges go, genocide and repression follow. A related strategy is far-right commentators such as Ann Coulter have accused refugees of preying upon children as a way to justify not aiding these groups as they flee deadly oppressive situations. So, you know, it's just like an old fucking oldest trick in the book.
Tim, can I share my conspiracy theory?
Yes, thank you, Q, for sharing. By the way, I really do appreciate it, and I hope you're healthy and happy and all the rest.
Yeah,
thank you for your support. Thank you for your candor. Yes, Doug, your conspiracy theory. This should be good.
Here we go.
Not that I believe anything either way, but we've been warned about this since 1982, when a little video game came out called by the Gottlieb Corporation called Qbert. Now, if you look at that game, there's a triangle. That's the Illuminati triangle. That this character, he's escaping from? The "Don't Tread on Me" snake.
Oh.
The signs are there, folks. It's all there.
Well, I think there's something that's really funny is,
wake up. Put the pieces together.
If anyone Googles like if somebody do this, Google maybe Matt, you could try doing this
Google
to show them
for
the screen.
me.
Is Google like the boat parades that Trump's had?
Yeah,
you know, the boat parade, or anytime someone's doing a selfie with the Trump hat on, because what it ends up looking like, it's the word Trump backwards, and what it looks like to me right away is the word Qmert. Q, because it's like the P, but it looks like a Q. So it's Q M-U-R-T. And those other letters look basically like they look anyways.
Thank you, Tim. That goes right into my theory.
So Qmert is Qmert 2020. And you have to maybe spend a minute looking for it. But let's talk to a few other people. I'm having a blast.
If you think about a triangle, how many corners does it have? 3. Mm-hmm. M, what's 3 letters after M?
P.
P, exactly.
Colin Strandberg has
what's next to that?
Yeah.
Colin Strandberg has a sickly-looking Bill Clinton and potentially adrenochrome vial behind him. Perhaps he has something interesting to say.
You guys can't deny cloning exists, okay?
Say that again?
That was my drop. Sorry.
I was hoping for
yeah.
What's this now?
I'm just wondering why don't they get Chris Hansen and his team on it? Like, they seem to be able to get everybody.
Well, yeah, nobody's doing anything about it. Like, I mean, and I kind of am, you know, I'm sort of glad maybe to some degree because I don't know what they're going to do. But like my wife said, it's like, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're just tweeting at me saying TikTok and you're going down.
Dude,
and
we're all going to be eating crow after this podcast.
And I'm fine, you know, I'm fine if somebody says like, you know what, you're going to burn in hell. Like, I'll take that fucking all day long, you know, like you're going to burn in hell. Like that's all the greats get that said to them, you know, like that's a badge of honor. But I get nervous when I see people go like, I'm going to be the one to march you into Gitmo. And that's kind of creepy, you know. That's kind of like.
Have you guys listened to the? I think it's episode 8 of the Rabbit Hole.
Yes.
Podcast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Robbie, what did you make of the Rabbit Hole podcast? Did you experience that? Listen to that?
No, but someone told me that there's an XQ person who's.
Yeah.
I found it a little disappointing, frankly. The XQ person. I felt like I wished it was somebody that might have been a little more deep into it.
Yeah.
It felt like they dipped in and weren't really in it for too long and had kind of like quickly gotten out of it. So I was hoping for like somebody that was a little more ingrained. I don't think we've got that quite yet, right? We haven't got the full, like, I was in there deep, I was part of it, I'm now out of it. Like, we're not there yet. We have to kind of wait for that, right?
No, it took like 10 years for like people from the 9/11 conspiracy movement to start doing that. So I feel like we got a lot of time because this is brainwashing people to a degree that is like way more intense than any other conspiracy theory I've ever seen in my life. So,
I mean, that's really notable, I think, from you who knows a lot about this, is to the degree by which you see this as a intense and significantly different than other conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
I think is, you know, it's not really being. And the other thing, people go, just ignore this, man. I go, no one's talking about this, and it's like you said, millions of people are buying into it, and it doesn't feel like it's getting the attention it deserves in a way. I mean, the reporters should be asking Trump what, like Chris Wallace should have asked him, like, what's this with Trump? What's this with Q? Do you agree with Q? Like, what do you think of the Q movement? Like, I want to hear what these people have to say about it.
Don't be a cutie pie.
I saw what's his name, Gorka. Threw it under the bus. That was interesting.
Yeah, he acted like it was like he full on just said it's a hoax, it's a scam, con, and that's like the only time I've seen anyone from the Trump administration directly respond to it. So that was actually quite interesting. I don't know what to make of that.
I don't either. I thought maybe either he's on the outs or he's like really not really in the inner circle, or that's sort of the role he's playing, is to, you know, continue to keep it sort of underground or make it seem, protect the president. It was interesting. He just kind of said, that is nothing but a joke and it's a complete hoax. Anyone who believes it's a complete fool. Like, okay, wow.
Even our pal KW, though, he wouldn't directly acknowledge it. That New York police guy, like, he has the mug there, but he's not directly, you know, it's all this innuendo.
Wink, wink. I mean, that's the move. That's the mode.
They don't want to own it.
All right. Who else do we have? And there's a lot of people, quite a lot of people here. How's the YouTube doing, Matt?
We should ask Robbie about what he thinks about.
It's what? Popping up?
Always popping.
Do we do that? Is this a nighttime show now?
I guess maybe. We
should do it once a month, right?
Yeah.
Danny Oliva loves that idea.
Louis Aguilar.
Bunch of lowlifes, though, you know.
Very exciting.
That guy didn't even.
Go ahead, Matt. Give me somebody.
Oh, he didn't get his question.
The guy didn't even get his question.
Did he drop it?
You know about this?
He was just bullshitting. I mean, he's just. He's just chit chatting. That's all.
He stayed up late. He's probably like, you know, on the East Coast.
Keep it moving. We got Louis on the line.
It's me. Oh, neat. I got a
Get my Louis dropped ready.
If a change of gears is okay, I have a pretty funny Robert Davi story.
Oh, yes.
I'm not interested. Next.
Not
really. I don't know. I'm just
off topic. It's off topic.
I'm sorry. I just
call back Thursday, please.
Your idea of a funny story is not something that can be verified at this time.
I am very curious what folks from outside the U.S.
How many people have a Robert Davi story though? And that was
call into the VicCast. Yeah, we're launching the VicCast. It's all Davi related.
Davi.
Whatever happened to that guy
in Shanghai?
Whatever happened to that guy that was like all mad at you about Davi? He's gone away, right?
Oh, he's gone. Yeah.
Really in Shanghai?
That's a good question.
Huh?
I am really in Shanghai.
Okay, good. We have our international callers are coming back across the pond, back the other way over in the far east.
It's usually too late for me to tune into the Thursday, so this is perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, welcome to the show. How can we help you?
Well, I have a question for Robbie and any of you guys, since you've traveled abroad. Do you think these conspiracy theories, whether they're for QAnon or 9/11 truthers or anything like that, do you think that's inherent with American values, or do you think anybody from anywhere can kind of subscribe to that? Because I have friends, here in China, whether they're Americans or even Chinese people, that they may not subscribe to American like values or American conspiracy theories, but even immigrant Chinese people, for instance, people I know, become hardcore conservative Republicans, for instance, or they become followers of something like QAnon, and they just kind of dive into that. So that 25% of the people you mentioned, do you think there's a good portion of that are immigrants or people just from born and raised in the U.S. that would subscribe to that?
I would say there's probably not any. I haven't seen any sort of like pattern with immigrants. So I feel like it's just a mixture. I mean, it does seem to be right now at this point in time, mostly focused on conservative leaning people. That's definitely the case. But in terms of conspiracy theories internationally, like my experiences have been in my own travels and just talking to people is that a lot of people in other countries outside of the United States are very, very willing, and even really educated people, even academics, are very, very inclined and willing to believe that in conspiracy theories about our power structure that we're not willing to believe here. So like things that, really cut to the core, like people in Europe, would probably believe in the American deep state, 20 years ago, if you'd asked them about it. But now it's just become sort of co-opted by the Republican Party. So the term is almost like rendered meaningless because Q and the Republicans use it to just mean Trump's opponents, which is absurd.
The election of Donald Trump kind of exploded the idea that there is any kind of, to me at least, and a lot of people I know, exploded the idea that there is any kind of Illuminati deep state power structure that's running the show, because it's just like, how would they let that through? Like, it just seems mind-boggling that he wouldn't have been eliminated in some way, not necessarily assassinated, but, taken out of the game. I mean, maybe just like the perfect storm happened or something and they lost control of the pieces on the board or whatever, but it just seemed like, no, the world is chaos. It's just a constant power struggle between different factions, and sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down, and everyone's kind of out for themselves, and there isn't like this grand conspiracy.
Sure.
That's kind of the way I feel about it.
And no one's been more swampy than Donald Trump, the people he's putting in there. It's all deep state people.
I mean, really, the thing that's amazing about listening to your podcast, Robbie, is we forget about Alex Jones because he's kind of receded a little bit, but hearing him talk in those early days of Q, going on about, I've been talking to people in Florida, the Delta Force, confided in me, and he did this one great tactic that was kind of beautiful, which was like, I'm going to tell you this because the enemy knows.
Yeah.
The enemy knows, so I'm going to tell you. So you have the right to know this. So it's sort of like, it's kind of like giving away big secrets that normally you would say like, well, dude, why would you be giving this away? You're giving away the whole deal. He's like, they already know, so you have the right to know. It's like, just carnival Barker shit. Just,
I want to suck on his teeth.
But his talking, and then, not to give away too much of your podcast, but just this idea that the Delta Force Army, the oldest army is the oldest, military unit, and they predate the Constitution, and they recruited Trump, and they said, we need you, sir, to come in, and they told me this, and about 4 other people know this, and I'm telling you this because the enemy already knows, and they've been exposed, and it's only a matter of time. It's just like, oh my God. Who is buying this bullshit?
I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob.
But he's been totally eliminated as a player in this now. Like, he's kind of foolishly
used by the president now.
Yeah, and by Q. Because, anyways,
moving out by the competition. Essentially, I mean, that's what's so interesting is Alex Jones was a total willing participant in the Q thing, and as you said, he even acted like he was part of it. He said, Q is. I just had a meeting with the Q team.
I just had a meeting with the Q team. It was confidential. I just got private documents.
Yeah, he claims that Trump's people asked his sidekick Jerome Corsi to decode Q as a
It's a job.
I think the only notable thing from that, the reason I put it in my podcast, is that Alex Jones was actually telling the QAnon narrative a year before it became a thing. So in some way or another, whatever QAnon is like stealing Alex Jones's talking points or stories and then like using them and sort of mixing them around. And then at a certain point, it actually, got Alex Jones to go along with it and then totally threw Alex Jones under the bus and charlatan.
But it's amazing because they must have looked, if your theory is correct, they must have looked at the situation and say, we got to take the keys away from this guy because we don't know what he's going to say next. Right? Because he's nuts. I mean, a lot of these conspiracy people are nuts, but Alex Jones is legit, like mentally unstable, untrustworthy. Like I can't imagine anybody from the Trump campaign being like, okay, we need to use Alex Jones as a consistent mechanism for our propaganda. Right, puppet.
In the campaign, which they did, where they actually had Roger Stone. Trump had Roger Stone. InfoWars like every other day.
Yeah, he was on there. He was like Ed McMahon.
That's at that point the arm of the Trump campaign. Like you can't say it's not because that's what it was.
Right.
He was trying to get Alex Jones's audience, and he successfully convinced Alex Jones's audience that Trump was a hero who was going to blow open 9/11, who was going to take down the deep state. And I think that actually had a huge impact on the election. As crazy as that sounds, that Alex Jones' audience actually brought.
Yeah, then Trump went on as a favor to Roger Stone. He went on the show.
Well, I love what you're doing, Alex. I think what you're doing is terrific, and you've got a great. Listen, you're coming at it from a different angle, and we love what you're doing. And listen, frankly, what you're doing is very interesting, and it has to be. Like never really committing to anything specific. But it is very, listen, you're doing a great thing there, and it's terrific, actually. But, well, sir, what you're doing too has really been impressive in the way you've been able to sort of capture the spirit of America, and you've become. Well, listen, I can only say that you're doing a terrific job, and you've got a great audience, and we love your patriotism. We love, just spinning the wheels. Like they can't have really agreed on anything during that exchange, right? There couldn't have been any like detente of or like sort of like sharing of ideas because it just would have been impossible for the two of them. I should watch that again. We should do a dissect of that that old interview.
I think just Jones gives up like halfway through. He's like, I'm not gonna get anything.
No, because listen, we're gonna do terrific things, and it's just gonna be incredible.
But then Jones had all these series of videos where he's like driving down the car in his car, like down the road. He's like, just get off the phone with Mr. Trump. Or he's like, sorry, Mr. Trump, I missed your call again. Like it's such clear bullshit. Like Trump is not calling him.
All right, let's take a couple more calls.
We have a question from a super commenter.
Oh,
I'll take it.
You want to take it?
Yeah.
Jake, for $10, asks.
By the way,
let's get
$10. We have not figured out exactly where that money's going. My account is still wrapped up in Jash bullshit, and we're trying to reorganize the. Anyways, what is that's a whole other podcast. What is the question?
Do you think that considering how the Q stuff is ignoring Trump's actual credible allegations, do you think Q could either be invented or at least very encouraged by the Trump administration?
I mean, I think we've covered that.
We kind of covered that.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much concluded.
But not invented by.
Quite possible, quite believable that
embraced.
They've been embraced or manipulated by, or perhaps even run by.
Eric Prince was involved.
He paid, so I got to ask it.
Well, let me ask you a question.
There's another old one that came up from somebody paid. They really want to know about your hat tonight. They want to know why you're wearing a hat. They want to know about the hat.
Tom Hanks asked me to wear this hat. Because I was wearing a man bun earlier because my hair has just gotten frankly too long, and it's just a total mess. And this is a hat, kind of significant actually for me and Matt, because a year ago we were in Vermont with our families on a little family vacation. That was a beautiful week around July 4th. We went to this Airbnb in Vermont, and we just had a wonderful time with some old friends. And it's sad because we were going to go there again this year, but it got canceled because of COVID. So for whatever reason, I'm wearing the hat. But my question I was going to ask Robbie Martin is it easy to Can we rule out Steve Bannon as being Q, or is there any reason to think that perhaps maybe because he's been kind of quiet and he left the? I mean, there are people that have kind of left the campaign but are still certainly aligned philosophically that could easily be like, you know what, I'm gonna kind of be over here, if you know what I mean.
I don't think he can be ruled out because when you were mentioning the Catholic church stuff earlier, what came up for me is I just remember that Steve Bannon is a very devout Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it sort of interesting that QAnon barely goes after the Catholic Church and only actually specifically goes after the Pope, which Steve Bannon is very, very upset about too, is the Pope's sort of acquiescence to liberalism, like climate change. He really hated the fact that the Pope did that.
Yeah. Oh, the Pope and Trump like got into it. Remember that? Like right before the election, they were like firing off op-eds at each other and shit. It was insane. Yeah. And you couldn't believe it. Like I come from a Catholic family, and they like my conservative fight. They liked the Pope because I think they might not agree with everything. They liked that he was kind of a bit more in the modern age, I guess, than the popes that come before. And so I think they were even just like, geez, this guy's going after the fucking Pope? That's like a new one.
Is there any evidence that maybe Chuck Johnson has anything to do with it, Robbie?
I think so, yeah, because, I mean, well, we know that Chuck Johnson, from what I've heard, and I think this actually been confirmed since then, is that Chuck Johnson, well, he's friends, he was Alan Dershowitz's intern, first of all, which is interesting. Right. He's connected to Dershowitz.
What? Wait a minute. Say that again?
You know who Chuck Johnson is?
Yeah, well, so the audience might not, though. Chuck Johnson is this red-bearded
loser troll
mini Cernovich type, like just an instigator.
Now he's mostly behind the scenes, but apparently he's the one who actually worked with Roger Stone to get all of Clinton's alleged rape victims together before that debate. He was the one who apparently arranged that. I don't know exactly what he's been involved in since, but I have a feeling that he's got to be involved with Stone. But these people, like, they go through people. They sort of there's these expendable tools, like Jack Posobiec, for example, used to go around saying he was Roger Stone's guy to people.
Yeah,
and he doesn't say that anymore. Now he's this sort of news reporter on this basically cut out fake, Trump propped up news network called OEN. So it's a strange world. I mean, but I think Bannon, you have to almost look at the smarter people who are generating the ideas involved with Trump, and Bannon would be one of them. Stone would be another one.
When you look at this whole thing from a macro 30,000 foot perspective, it is a beautiful psych op that you could say is either CIA, KGB inspired based on their understanding of psychology and how to manipulate people. I mean, it's so fucking dumb and obvious, and like the convergence of social media and how they've been able to manipulate that and radicalize people and play into people's sort of big, most naked fears. And it's just so clearly to me somebody that is either in that intelligence or comes from that world of intelligence that is how do we captivate a block of an audience, and how do we keep keep ginning them up and keep them engaged and keep, it's just like, somebody was saying like Quibi. This sounds like a tangent, but I was reading about Quibi, how fucking Jeffrey Katzenberger was inspired by was inspired by the Dan Brown book,
the Da
Vinci Code, because the way the chapters were laid out, that it was like a new chapter every 3-4 pages. So you kept on, it was cliffhanger after cliffhanger, and this idea of this like munching of news, and this idea of like, well, the breadcrumbs and follow the plan, and this kind of never-ending saga that they're part of, and that they have they're kind of invested in. It's all there. It's all like, it's so juicy. It's so, I just want to be I want to be in it. I want to be a part of it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm into it, Doug. I'm a Q boy.
A Quibi boy?
I'm a QB. I'm the QB. I'm your new leader. Q follows me, like KW Miller said. All right.
Some,
Quibi is
some
Q.
good news from back home
Katzenberg
in
is
PA.
Q.
What's that?
There's a GoFundMe started to get an official billboard.
Is somebody paying for that, Doug? Say yes or no.
There should be.
No one's
He's got his
paying for
own
the
side
pickle.
money
No.
coming.
This is a controversy last week. Somebody was super commenting for pickle drops, and it was disgraceful. And you
No,
accept
that's a
that money,
freebie.
blood money.
That's a freebie.
Pickle money. It's just I'm not taking that money. We're
No, I'm
giving it
getting
back, giving it to charity.
I just checked to see my Venmo came in. Okay, here we go. No,
What is that, Vic?
No,
What is
there's a big billboard going up on the turnpike. Bill Cosby is innocent that they're putting up. They're trying to get
That
that
is
going.
money well spent.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, seriously.
Who's putting that up?
Free Bill Cosby now.
Want another one?
Yeah.
All right, let's let Robbie go.
Okay, good.
And we'll take. Well, let's go for another 5 minutes. Take a couple questions.
Sure.
Robbie, you're welcome to stay or not. Like I've been saying for the past hour, but
Just
people really
go
want
when you gotta go.
Matt Van Dam.
This may seem to be a strange request.
By the way, we will have a show on Thursday morning. Believe it or not, working on the details.
Hey,
Ready to hear about Montana.
I don't know what the hell they do it for, but
Okay, Matt from Montana.
Hey Tim, how's it going? I got a question. So I got a question about the future of what happens. I've been worried about this actually a lot. I've been thinking about this. What happens if, say, everything goes great and we win and Trump leaves and we take the House and Senate? It's all great, right? Then two big things we got to worry about. Not only all these crazy people that now think that they're savior, they've been trained to think this for 4 years and they go crazy. But then in addition to that, you have the whole Clinton thing that happened in the 90s where it's like they take over, there's all this debt now, there's all this crap, and then everyone goes, oh, we elected this guy, he can't do anything, there's no money in the pile to do any of the things, and everyone blames
Trump's
us again,
Trump's kind of like looted the place and caused all this trouble. I thought I would like Robbie's perspective on that, but I kind of had this fantasy about, and you know, I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton. I was not excited about her, but I was gonna, I voted for her and whatever. It's that was the choice. It was what we did.
The real Hillary's dead.
But I kind of extrapolated in my mind what would happen if she had won, and the same, maybe things would. I mean, it's sort of stupid to do this, but if there was the COVID pandemic, and the Hillary Clinton government ordered in March the closure of restaurants and masks, what the fucking right would have done. I mean, that could have been civil war there. I mean, that could have been like, this is their worst nightmare coming true. Almost like the fact that it was on Trump's watch as badly as he handled it, that those people couldn't say it was some kind of insane Illuminati conspiracy to destroy, to impose totalitarianism, whatever. You know what I mean? Robbie, what do you think about all that?
Well, it's strange that you say that, Tim, because they are also saying that. Even though Trump is the president.
I know. Like what? But it would have been It would have been infinitely worse. It would have been like guns. It would have been like storm the castle times.
If Hillary was president right now, I think you're right. People would be like, rushing Costco. There'd be like flash mobs, like trying to break into Costco front doors with no masks on, weird crap like that at the very least. So yes. But I think to answer your caller's question about what will happen, if Trump leaves office, if Biden wins, I still think that the Q is going to continue to be a problem. Like whatever Q has been able to do, whoever this person is, whoever this group is, it'll still continue it'll work as some kind of, oppositional force to whatever Democratic administration is in there.
Sure.
And a more scary scenario would be if Trump, and everybody's talking about this right now, but the people who aren't talking about Q, they're saying, what if Trump doesn't accept the election results? Okay, what if he doesn't? But, and that's a scary thought to play out. But then when you actually include what Q is doing in that, then it gets a lot scarier to think the worst case scenario out of this is, potentially that this whole thing is just designed to somehow groom us for the inevitable, Trump going full fascism. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that's what's going to happen, but I worry that it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. So
sure. I mean, you can kind of fantasize about a situation where Trump loses, and the mainstream media and the people that count votes have said demonstrably that he did not get as many votes and blah, 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 that Trump immediately has a power base within the Q community to have some kind of counterinsurgency movement that exists that he can immediately just kind of either turn into a media organization or an actual some kind of shadow government. You know what I mean?
And all he has to do is just tweet on election night. I mean, all he has to do is just say the election results are fraudulent. We go one, we go. You can just tweet the hashtag, and it's gonna be
where we go one.
Matt, you're smirking back there. What do you have?
Nothing.
Okay.
I'm in the chat.
Not what your country can
Yeah,
do for
I
you.
mean, listen.
Can't they come up with a better slogan than "When we go one, we go all"?
I know it's so
from,
like
no, but it's from,
it's so like we're just
it's from JFK's boat.
Oh yeah.
How about
wasn't it?
Let's get the bad
Robbie,
guys.
do you know that? Wasn't the phrase "Where we go one, we go all"? Wasn't it like the name of his boat or something?
No, but everybody should touch their toes if they know that JFK Jr. is still alive. I think right now on this Zoom.
It's all good.
What about
anybody
RFK
with
Jr.? That's
anybody with beards
guy.
in the chat can
RFK
go. We're gonna start weeding people out. I'll take a few more.
RFK Jr. I don't know if you ever checked out his.
Is there such a thing
Instagram.
as RFK?
Yeah.
RFK Jr. is an interesting one. He's like an anti-vaxxer.
He
was like a big
guy, big time.
Yeah, he's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit.
But he's a K. He's a Kennedy. So wouldn't he have some kind of inside track into like?
They lost track of the Kennedys. Like you can't count on the Kennedys anymore.
There's
John D. Speaking of John D. Rockefeller, John D. What do you
Joe
got?
Kennedy.
Yo.
No, look up
later.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have a question for Robbie.
Well,
or just a
Go ahead,
topic
Robbie.
to bring up.
Robbie Robertson, right?
Matt Drudge, though, the Drudge Report has been.
I have to look it up.
Sorry, the guys have lost control. Matt Drudge.
Sorry, guys.
You have a question about Matt
Drudge? The Drudge Report has been super influential for conservatives, the right wing. It's in various ways, as simple as it is, but there was a point where it seems like he changed, like he supported Trump in his election, but then he kind of changed course and wasn't. People were saying that he sold the website, and I'm actually wondering about that now. And is there any connection there? If you looked into that or noticed that at all?
Well, it's interesting you ask because I just got reached out to by a guy who's about to release a book all about Matt Drudge, where he interviewed 200 sources that knew Matt Drudge. Matt Drudge hasn't spoken to any press since I think 3 years ago when he appeared on InfoWars in a silhouette. It was a very weird interview.
Wow.
But what's interesting?
My guest for the hour is Matt Drudge. Matt Drudge, is it true that your name rhymes with sludge?
Sorry. So what? Yeah, what's the scoop on that?
Well, the scoop is that there is no confirmation that he has sold it, and this guy talked to 200 people. He could not find any confirmation or any evidence it had been sold. So the Rasmussen guy who said that it had been sold on Twitter actually backpedaled on that claim, and nobody actually knows for sure what's going on. But the author of this book believes Matt Drudge is still running the website, that he saw the tide turning against Trump, and that he had a business sense about it. And he thought, you know what, I want to get ahead of the curve because that's what
is the Drudge website still a powerful media source of information?
Yeah. Not as influential anymore because it's turned away from Trump. So a lot of conservatives think it's betrayed Trump, that it's compromised. But there is an interesting climate there now where if you go on Drudge's page now, it's very anti-Trump.
I'm looking at it's all COVID. The headline is now it's spreading in Idaho about COVID, I assume. And an interview, a quote from Pataki, the old governor of New York. I for the first time, I fear for the future of New York City. I don't know what that's about. Trump to send more federal. A lot of it's just news headlines. But anyways,
I know for a while, for a few years, they would print out the entire website, the top headlines for Trump, and that would be what he would read in the morning, as president, right?
Well, the disturbing part is I've talked to many journalists who've worked in the industry, and they will tell you, a lot of them will still tell you that their job in the morning was to log into Drudge. Their bosses would say, go to Drudge Report. What's the scoop? What are the top stories? Because according to most mainstream music reporters, Drudge was always getting scoops, like faster and quicker than mainstream media networks, which seems extremely odd, but that was how it was set up for a while. Janine Garofalo told this story on Air America years ago, how this was the industry standard to just log into Drudge and be like, what's the... It's nuts, but that's
right.
That's how much influence
it seems easy. It's like beats like going around and talking to people. All right, couple more.
Can I ask a question to Robbie that this Q head was asking me?
Yes. So let's get background on this. Doug has a cutie pie fan.
Cutie pie.
Is it not a friend? It's just a fan.
Right. And then of course, the person has some weird name. It's not their real name.
And they anonymous. Are a Q head, and they knew that this show was happening tonight.
Well, I was feeding questions to Robbie all day. He answered them in DMs, but we might as well answer them on the show.
Okay.
This Q head seems to think that the election, the virus is attached to the election. Like it's, I guess, some Democratic plot to overthrow Trump is why the virus is.
I mean, Trump is saying that is in so many words in his public interviews. I mean,
so is that theory valid, or what's up with that?
Well, I mean, I keep telling people, and Tim's right. It's actually become a mainstream Republican narrative at this point. So when people bring that up to me, I'm like, look, this would have to be basically a global conspiracy to try to take Trump out of office. So if you believe that someone released a virus, because then you have to take it back even, well, how did was it accidentally released? If you're saying it's a conspiracy, then you're sort of saying that it was intentional. So
I mean, if you want to sorry to interrupt you, Robbie, but if you wanted to sound like the most reasonable right-winger on this subject, you might say something like, the virus is a real thing. It is a problem. There is an overreaction happening, and it has become politicized in certain ways, and there are Democrats that are using it as a strategically to attack the president and make him look weak, and that certain, Trump on Sunday said, "Oh, California's not opening because they want to torpedo the economy, so it hurts me in the fall." Now, I don't agree with that, but that's less intense than saying that the virus was created to, expel Trump from office. That's saying like they're taking advantage of a situation,
and QAnon is saying kind of both things, which is interesting. It's insinuated that the virus is lab created, it was intentionally released, and that the Democrats are hyping up the danger of it and intentionally shutting down the economy to get him out of office. Which it's interesting to think that someone like Gavin Newsom, his political decision would be like, what can I do to hurt Trump the most? Oh, I'll tank my own economy. I mean, it just odd that he, as a politician, he wouldn't be more concerned about the fallout for himself politically, like being blamed for more deaths.
Yeah, I mean, California's governors are always living and dying on the economy of California. And I mean, there's almost like an autonomous, state here that is so almost divorced from, the national economy that, I totally see that it's in Gavin Newsom's best interest to have it to come out of this thing successfully and not, he's made terrible mistakes. It seems like whatever, but I'm not necessarily saying he's handled it correctly, but I don't think he's saying like, we're going to close things up so that the economy goes down and then Trump loses. Like I'm Conan O'Brien all of a sudden. What do you got, Doug? What's your next question?
That's it.
Okay. Final question from the audience.
Do you think Gavin Newsom stuff about this Q thing?
Newsom stuff. Thank you, Doug. It's all guys with beards now. We're down to the guys with beards.
Well, it's getting late.
It's true. The
beard
hairs are coming. Seriously, I'm looking at nothing but men with beards.
Sea of beards.
Mike Basso is clean shaven to some degree.
Best looking beard on this screen. I want to see a beard.
Mike
the guy-
Basso. I mean, listen, I can't.
Is that a Red Letter Media person in here? Yeah. Maybe
What do you
not.
got, Mike?
Can you hear me?
Hey, Mike. Why isn't Tommy G calling him the little puss?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Fucking Tommy G, get Tommy on the phone. You know what? I have to tell. It's late. It's late, right? I can tell you this.
I have an idea.
I got
to-
Tommy. Wait, excuse me. Can
You
you
got
not
Tommy?
understand? I got Tommy G's number.
Oh.
I have an idea.
Somebody
to,
DM. Excuse me. This guy does not understand dramatic pauses, Mike. I just dropped a bomb. I dropped a bomb, and Mike's just trying to get a word in edgewise.
I'm trying to support.
But I'll get to your point. I promise you. But I'm trying to make a big announcement that I have Tommy G's number.
You mean like I got his number?
Wow, cool.
I'll tell you it.
No, don't do
that. I'm just saying that so you could say that. I'm not going to tell you that, but
you don't have.
I do know. I'll tell you how I have his number. Somebody wrote me. I won't say who. They said, I am unfortunately an acquaintance of Tommy's. He's usually just doing this for attention. Sorry you have to go through this. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I said, well, tell him he's going to get someone, maybe me, killed. It's not a joke.
It's a 1-900 number.
I already
It's kinda
texted
weird.
him. I don't know if this helps, but here's his number if you want to call him. And then 201.
Wait, you
He's
did
from
text
Jersey.
him?
Huh?
You texted him?
No, I'm saying that's the
oh.
message I got. I'm not going to give his number out, but I will if he continues to
You're hitting phone dialing
fuck with me.
That was me, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
because
No, I'm not calling. I'm just
use those and
putting a little fear into him.
code what number.
Yeah.
All right. So wait, I have somebody on the line. What was it that you wanted to tell me?
Well,
or ask?
I want to like secure your house because you're scared of like QAnon attacking you. So
Could I
my
should I get a militia out in front of my house at all times?
He wants to sell you some security cameras.
Oh, I got the security cameras. I got.
Can
I'm
you install
security-
a trail cam?
I got ADT up the ass in my house. Always running out of batteries. I got to replace the batteries. Ding donging.
just put a flyer out.
So what do you want to do? You got an idea?
Yeah, you just put a flyer out attracting child clowns that are volunteering to secure your house. So that sets up a little dilemma when QAnon shows up. Do they just shoot the child clowns? Like, are they going to kill the child clowns that they're accusing?
You make
of?
a wall of child clowns.
Perfect trap. Perfect dilemma for them that they.
By the way, I've got
It'll
this.
leave them speechless.
I made this. I've got some new music coming out soon, and I made a video using all this old Super 8 home video of me from when I was a kid, like really young, from like the 70s. And it's really beautiful footage because it's that great old Super 8 70. Everyone's looks like Halcyon.
Yeah, it looks like
just just kind of
it's a Fred Savage show.
Yeah, Wonder Years.
Yeah.
But the end of it, there's this clip of me it's like Halloween, and I'm dressed up as a clown, like a child clown, and like the whole end of it is me as this like child clown dancing around, and I could not help but use it. But it's me. I was a child. I was the original child clown.
Like 50 of those surrounding your house, just kind of dancing around.
We understand. One more question from Bro, then we'll say goodnight. Bro.
Wait, are you gonna call the guy?
No,
Yeah.
I told you I'm
Call
not calling.
Tommy.
I'm not
Come
calling
on.
Tommy.
Hello.
I'll call him.
What's up,
give him a
Tommy?
call.
I mean, Bro.
What if I call?
Hello.
Yeah.
Are those drops?
What?
Oh.
What?
Who are you with there?
What? Listen, Tim Heidecker. I got a question for you.
Okay.
What's with all the politics, man?
Oh my God. Is that a goof? Is that a goof?
No.
Huh? Are you high? Look at you.
Bob
Is that
Dylan's your
totally-
dealer.
Go full screen on this.
Legit question. Legit question.
What isn't political, buddy?
Yeah, what do you want me to talk about? My fucking diarrhea?
Because we can.
Man. That's how
It's a free show. It's a free site. Go watch something else. Asshole. I don't have a gun to your head saying you have to watch what I'm doing here.
Listen, I come here for diarrhea. I want that diarrhea.
There's plenty that you can watch. I buy a DVD or get downloaded on the internet. Whatever you want to do. Listen, you scumbag. I ought to come over there and strangle you. What do you want me to do? We want to talk about sports?
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Okay. The Blue Jays. Yeah, the Blue Jays. The fucking Eagles. God damn it. Here I was having a great time.
Ruined it.
What about... Shut up. Get out of here. Go smoke a bong. What about Leah Kelly, huh?
Basketball games.
Leah, do you have an issue, Leah? Leah Kelly, do you have an issue? Do you have an issue with what I'm doing here?
No, but we bearded ourselves to get attention. I'm a girl with a beard right now.
Oh, I see. You didn't pay attention. I was trying to get away from people with beards.
No, I know, but then I thought maybe, I don't know.
Are they identical twins? What's going on?
Are you identical twins?
Who called that?
No, you're really beautiful.
Matt Carlin.
I have like a big clear view of the Zoom here.
Can we say first of all, let me bid adieu to Robbie and everyone give him a big round of applause for sticking with us for this whole show. That's very kind of him. And Robbie made me feel better. You gave a lot of great perspective on this. We'll say goodbye to you and see you in the next. Well, you're become a.
Plug his awesome podcast again.
Media Roots.
Robbie, say something so you pop up on screen.
Media Roots Radio.
Media Roots Radio, and part 1 is available on SoundCloud, and part 2 is a part of his Patreon. So subscribe to his Patreon because I found it fascinating and it was very enlightening. And now we're in the midst. Now we're in the muck. So thank you, Robbie. We'll talk later.
Thanks, everybody.
And we'll end with Leah. What was Leah? What did you want to speak about?
Okay, honey, baby. I finished. We just want to say hi.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for not giving me shit for talking politics. I mean, what the hell was that guy all about? This is beyond politics, by the way. This is beyond politics. This is life. This is life itself. This is the future. This is the future of my country. This isn't like.
What you fucking on about?
This isn't like. Well, here's the strategy that Mitch McConnell, I think, is going to need to use in the next term. And the midterms will be interesting if you look at the 17th district, because there's a shift happening there, and what Pelosi needs to do. It's not that. This is the fucking future. This is my children's future, ladies and gentlemen, and there's nothing more important to me than that.
How convenient.
And I will continue to goof and gag and play around and make gags and tell funny stories and joke around and make music and play and have fun and laugh. I have so many great ideas. But tonight, we had to get real. And thank you for going on this journey with me. And I think we're done.
Can we end with like a nice drop concert? Oh,
yes, okay. Drop concert, Doug. Drop concert. How dare you?
Drop concert.
Drop concert, everybody. I love you very much. Thank you for sticking with us tonight. It was awesome to do a nighttime show. Today's sponsor is the Drop Concert.
Someone asked for a City of the Night.
City of the Night. Yes. It's got to be San Francisco. All right, thanks everybody. Love you very much. Thank you, and peace and love. Peace and love.
Lousy and stupid.
Drop concert starts now.
I don't like my club at all. 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 I don't like my club at all.
Oh God, no.
I don't like my club at all. What? I don't like my club at all. Wow! Come on! I like food. I like food. Come on!
I look pretty good.
I like food.
I look pretty good.
Well, the Phil Spector Twisted Cell problem was the greatest album ever produced. I think Randy Mazel Sandway was a milestone in his.
I don't care!
The Beach Boys aren't hip
Pepper
anymore.
Unbelievably great album.
Hip anymore.
I think that Dark Side of the Moon was a great album. There's a lot of great albums.
Be My Baby is my favorite song.
Well, the Beatles were probably my favorite group. I really liked them a lot.
I don't think it was a funny record. It didn't make me laugh, you know.
I'm back